AITA for cutting my friend after she pretended to be me? You ever meet someone who just clicks with your soul? I'm not talking about romance, though I wish it were that simple. I'm talking about that rare, electric kind of friendship where every conversation feels like it was waiting to happen, like the universe tied your paths together with red string and a group project from hell. That was Lexi. We met during freshman orientation at St. Albans College, one of those leafy, brick-laden campuses that tries really hard to look like an ivy but smells like ramen and regret. Our bond sparked over a mutual hatred for our Communications 101 group project and a shared obsession with peach-flavored energy drinks. At first, it was innocent. We were dorm neighbors, late-night snack enablers, and unofficial therapists for each other's academic meltdowns. She was charming, loud in the best way, a walking main character moment. I was the quieter half. Observant. A little neurotic. Prone to overthinking but great at proofreading texts before you send them to your crush. Together? We were unstoppable. We had traditions. Sunday brunches at Penny's Diner. Cry watching old Disney Channel shows. Planned spontaneity nights where we'd get dressed up, pretend to be British, and crash open mic nights. We weren't just best friends. We were each other's people. And for a long time, I thought that meant forever. But here's the thing about soulmates, sometimes, they don't arrive to complete you. Sometimes, they come to consume you. I first noticed it when she borrowed my hoodie. It was just a gray oversized Columbia pullover I wore when I was too tired to be a person. She asked if she could wear it after spilling soy sauce on hers during our 4 a.m. sushi binge. Don't ask, and of course, I said yes. That's what friends do. She forgot to give it back. No big deal. Until she started wearing it constantly, posting selfies in it, tagging me like it was some cute best friend aesthetic moment. Okay. Still fine. We're close. Then came the shoes. I had these white platform sneakers, not designer or anything, but I'd saved up for weeks waitressing to get them. They were mine. Lexi suddenly showed up wearing an identical pair to brunch. Twinsies, she squealed. I laughed, but something in my stomach turned. The kind of laugh you force when you don't want to sound crazy. But hey, maybe I was being dramatic, right? Except it kept happening. New haircut? She'd booked the same cut coincidentally 2 days later. New hobby? She'd suddenly be so into it, like it was something we'd always shared. I joined a hot yoga studio. She signed up and claimed she'd been meaning to get into it for years. I got a gold necklace with my zodiac sign. She got one the next week, same font, just hers. At some point, my entire life started to feel like a Pinterest board, and Lexi was repping everything. Here's the real kicker. One day, I updated my Instagram bio. Nothing major, just a little curated snapshot of me. Round pushpin city name dog mom, latte addict, future psychologist dizzy. I posted it before class, sat through 90 minutes of abnormal psych, grabbed a macchiato, and popped open my phone again. Lexi had changed her bio. To mine. Word. 4. Word. I stared at it for a full minute, scrolling up, down, refreshing like maybe my brain was buffering. Maybe it was a weird glitch. But no, there it was. The city. The dog mom. The lattes. Even the future psychologist bit, which made zero sense because Lexi wasn't even in psych. She was a communications major who once asked if Freud was the one who invented anxiety. And still, there it was. My identity. Staring back at me from her profile like it belonged to her now. I texted her something light, like hey lol love the bio eyes, just to see what she'd say. She replied. OMG. Great minds. Face with tears of joy, we really are the same person, haha. That's when I knew something was off. Something deeper. This wasn't just about clothes or brunch or bios. It was about me, or more accurately, Lexi's obsession with being me. I started taking mental notes. How she started using my phrases. Emotional hangover, soft launching a vibe, feral girl autumn. All mine. All co-opted. She even started ordering my exact coffee order down to the oat milk and the extra shot of vanilla. I stopped wearing certain outfits just to see if she'd pick up on them. Like clockwork, a week later, she'd show up in something similar. I brought it up gently once, joked that she was turning into me. She laughed, too loud. What can I say? You've got great taste, babe. But it wasn't funny anymore. It was eerie. And it wasn't just online or in our apartment. Friends started mixing us up. Even my own boyfriend once asked if I'd posted something, only to realize it was on her feed. I'd walk into rooms where she'd already been and feel like I'd just missed a version of myself. A Lexi-shaped echo of me. You know when you try to convince yourself someone's behavior isn't weird? Like, maybe they just really admire you. Maybe it's flattering. Maybe you're being paranoid. That's where I was with Lexi. After the Instagram bio debacle, I took a deep breath, did a little grounding exercise, and told myself she was just enthusiastic. Some people have intense personalities. I'm not going to be the jerk who pathologizes friendship. Right? Right? Wrong. Because what started as mimicry turned into infiltration. OP doesn't like sushi. It started with little moments, those kinds of things you notice but don't know how to call out without sounding unhinged. We were at a dinner with friends, one of those everyone orders for the table and pretends they're cool with sharing kind of nights. The waiter came around and someone suggested sushi. I said, perfect, I've been craving a dragon roll all week. And Lexi, without missing a beat, laughed and said, oh, OP doesn't like sushi. Everyone turned to me. I blinked. Yeah, I do? She laughed again. No, remember? You said raw fish freaks you out. That was from 3 years ago, before I discovered the magic of spicy mayo and tempura crunch. She knew this. She watched me eat a dragon roll last week like it owed me money. I brushed it off. Maybe she was just confused. But it kept happening. No, actually, that happened in 2019. Lexi started inserting herself into my stories, not just as a participant, but as the narrator. We were at a party, and I was telling a story about the time I got stranded on the wrong train line in Chicago during a snowstorm. I was halfway through the part where a kind stranger gave me hand warmers when Lexi jumped in. No, that was 2019. Remember? You were visiting your cousin, not your aunt. I blinked. First of all, it was 2020. Second, I wasn't visiting anyone. It was a solo trip. Third, and I cannot stress this enough, this story happened to me. She wasn't even there. But Lexi said it with the confidence of a Wikipedia citation. And my friends? They just nodded along, because she said it like it was fact. Like she knew me better than I did. That night, I went home and cried in the shower. Which sounds dramatic, I know. But when someone starts rewriting your memories, not just copying your bio or outfits, it messes with your sense of self in a way that's hard to explain. Then came the incidents. Plural. It started small, Lexi letting herself into my apartment using the emergency key I gave her back in college. At first, it was for things like borrowing a charger or dropping off food. I didn't mind. Much. But then she stopped texting first. I'd come home to find her on my couch, feet up, watching my Netflix, logged into my profile, eating my Trader Joe's snacks. She'd wave like it was normal. One time she said, oh, I figured you wouldn't mind, I brought wine. It was a $6 bottle of Barefoot Moscato. Warm. Lexi, babe. This isn't a sorority mixer. You don't get to violate personal boundaries and pay in sugar wine. I tried to talk to her about it, but she laughed it off. I practically live here, she joked. And that was becoming alarmingly true. The breaking point came on a random Thursday night. I'd had a hellish day, a pop quiz in my stats class, a migraine brewing behind my eyes, and a spilled coffee in my tote bag situation. All I wanted was a hot shower, my softest sweatpants, and to disassociate while watching the Great British Bake Off. I opened my apartment door and stopped cold. Music. Laughter. Voices. I stepped inside, and there they were, my friends. My couch. My living room. And Lexi, standing in the middle like some kind of deranged Pinterest hostess, slicing brie onto crackers like Martha Stewart in A Stolen Body. OP, she squealed, like I was the one crashing her night. Surprise. Wine and cheese night. I blinked. Looked around. Every single person in that room was someone I had introduced to Lexi. People from my classes. My book club. My life. I hadn't been invited. Not a text. Not a call. Nothing. She turned to my friend Julia and laughed. I knew she'd love it once she got here. She always needs a little push to be social. The room laughed. I felt like a ghost in my own apartment. I didn't say anything that night. I smiled. I faked chewed lukewarm cheddar. I laughed when appropriate. But something inside me snapped, not with a bang, but with a slow, bone-deep crack. Lexi wasn't just copying me anymore. She was replacing me. Erasing me. Like a shapeshifter trying to crawl into my skin, one stolen outfit, one misquoted memory, one uninvited party at a time. And the scariest part? No one seemed to notice. So, a few months ago, I landed a coveted interview for a media marketing associate position at this boutique agency downtown. Sleek office, skyline views, dog-friendly, actual free lattes, the whole Pinterest for startup fantasy. I'd spent weeks prepping. I researched the company, practiced my STAR method answers, even redid my portfolio to match their brand aesthetic. I was ready. The day before the big interview, I met Lexi for coffee. Because despite everything, the outfit mimicry, the accidental house invasions, the unofficial autobiography she was ghostwriting through me, I still wanted to believe we were friends. Or salvageable. Or something. We grabbed lavender oat lattes. I told her about the role. I showed her the company website, the founder's TED Talk, even my updated resume. She smiled, wide-eyed. This is so perfect for you, babe. You're gonna kill it. I believed her. That was my first mistake. Fast forward to the next morning. I arrived 15 minutes early because I'm one of those cursed punctual people whose anxiety won't allow anything less. The receptionist gave me a polite but strained smile and checked her screen. Then I hear her mumble, almost to herself. Are you sure this is the right Lexi? We already had someone interview for OP's name, S position this morning. Cue that glitch in the matrix feeling. I laughed nervously. Oh no, I'm OP's name. There must be a mix-up. She blinked. Tilted her head. Wait, but, someone already came in this morning for the 9 a.m. slot. She said she was you. Lexi something? The air left my lungs like someone had punched me with a pillow full of betrayal. Lexi? I asked. Yeah, she said. She seemed really prepared. I was too stunned to process it properly in the moment. I gave a half-baked explanation, something about identity confusion, best friends, maybe caffeine hallucinations, and politely excused myself from the building like a woman who had just watched her own reflection walk away with her future. Then I did what any unhinged but still technically stable adult would do. I stormed to Lexi's apartment. She opened the door wearing my old blazer. The one I wore to my last interview. Hey, what's up? She asked, all nonchalance, like she hadn't just tried to assume my identity like some off-brand Tom Ripley. I stared at her. You went to my interview. You pretended to be me. She didn't even flinch. I knew the receptionist would talk, she said, like she was disappointed in the receptionist. Not, in herself. Lexi. What the actual hell? She shrugged, like this was some minor misunderstanding at a brunch reservation. I just wanted to see if I could do it, she said, like a 6-year-old trying on their mom's heels. You're so successful. It was kind of a social experiment. A what? A social experiment, she repeated. Like, how far could I get just being you? I even practiced her tone, you know that thing you do when you're being diplomatic but also firm? She mimicked it. I watched her do me. And something inside me broke. You think this is flattering? I asked, stunned. Lady, this isn't a BuzzFeed quiz called Which Friend Are You? This is my career. My actual life. She pouted. You're overreacting. I could only laugh, one of those bitter, dry laughs that sounds more like a scream with the edges sanded off. Lexi didn't get it. Worse, she refused to. She saw her performance as a compliment. As if wanting to wear my skin was somehow the highest form of love. But this wasn't love. This was erasure. I reported her to the company, of course. They were sympathetic but weirded out, and I don't blame them. The hiring manager gently told me they'd need to take a pause on this process for now. Translation, I lost the job. Because of her. Lexi texted me later that night. No hard feelings? Red heart still love you. I didn't respond. Because at that point, I realized, she didn't just want my clothes, my words, my apartment, or even my friends. She wanted me, down to the bones. And she didn't care what had to be destroyed in the process. I'm not usually a drama person. I don't air dirty laundry. I don't rage post. I don't write vague captions like, Karma's watching face blowing a kiss, or some of y'all forgot who I am. But after Lexi tried to identity swipe me into career oblivion? Yeah. It was time for a little main character energy. First order of business, the locks. Lexi still had a key. The emergency key I gave her back in college when we were naive and obsessed with the idea of being each other's ride or die. That key had opened my home, my fridge, my personal space, and my life, for way too long. So I changed the locks. Swiftly. Quietly. With enough satisfaction to make a locksmith blush. Next, removing her from every group chat, event invite, shared calendar, and Spotify blend. Yes, even the one we made during the pandemic called Quarantunes and Wine Crimes. Gone. Deleted. Blocked on Instagram, Snapchat, BeReal, Venmo, and even Goodreads. She wasn't just excommunicated. She was ex-algorithmed. I knew our friend group would be confused. Lexi had spent years weaving herself into my life like a well-dressed parasite. People saw us as a pair. So I dropped a digital PSA in our group chat. Not a rant. Not a roast. Just facts. Hey everyone. Just so you're not confused, Lexi and I are no longer in contact. Please don't give her access to my schedule, my whereabouts, or any shared resources. I won't go into details, but boundaries have been crossed in ways that are beyond repair. Thanks for respecting my space. Short. Controlled. Devastating. Lexi, naturally, responded the way any mature adult would, by subtweeting me on Instagram like a 14-year-old with a side bang. That same night, Lexi posted a black and white selfie, slightly blurry, deeply moody, captioned, "Some people can't handle being truly seen." Woman shrugging. Girl. What is this? A deleted scene from Euphoria? Let's get one thing straight. I don't want to be seen by you. I want to be left alone by you. And not in a poetic, soul journey kind of way. I mean like legally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, logistically, detached. But Lexi wasn't done. While I was moving on, Lexi was building a narrative. She told our mutual friends, OP just misunderstood everything. I was trying to help her prep for the interview. She's always so nervous about those. Yes. Helping me prep, by stealing my resume, showing up in my outfit, and impersonating me at a real job interview. That's not helping. That's fraud cosplay. But here's the thing about manipulative people, they're charming. Charisma with a knife behind the back. And Lexi? She was excellent at sounding like the wrong party. She's just always been so sensitive, she said, according to one friend. She thought I was copying her, but I was just inspired, she told another. We were so close, our identities got blurry, she whispered like she was narrating a sad French film. I half expected her to show up to a brunch wearing my face like she'd borrowed it for the weekend. Our social circle did what most do in these situations, splintered like a dollar store wine glass. Some friends DM'd me privately. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. That's seriously scary. You don't deserve that. I always got weird vibes from her tbh. Others? Radio silence. Or worse, gentle suggestions that I was overreacting. She just really admired you. I think she's going through something. Maybe you guys could talk it out? Sure. Let me grab some chamomile tea and we'll chat about how she tried to Freaky Friday her way into my LinkedIn. Here's the truth. I don't miss her. I miss the version of her I thought I had. The best friend movie montage girl who danced in my kitchen, helped me pick outfits, and made playlists for my mental breakdowns. But that girl was either never real, or she disappeared somewhere around the time Lexi stopped wanting to know me and started trying to be me. So no, I won't talk it out. I won't see her side. I won't let anyone guilt me for protecting my peace. Because sometimes, the scariest people aren't the ones who hate you. They're the ones who love you so much, they want to replace you. So now, after months of therapy, lock-changing, gaslighting, social espionage, Instagram subtweet warfare, and one suspiciously warm bottle of barefoot Moscato, I'm asking the only court that still feels real, Reddit. AITA for completely cutting off my best friend after she tried to literally replace me? Buckle up. Once upon a time, I had a best friend named Lexi. We were close. Like share clothes, emergency contact, knows my Starbucks order kind of close. We met in college and basically fused lives from there. Same classes. Same parties. Same Sunday brunches. Then it got weird. And by weird, I mean single white female, millennial edition. Lexi started borrowing things. Clothes, phrases, mannerisms. At first, it was cute. Endearing, even. Who doesn't rub off a little on their best friend? But then she started mirroring me. Outfits? Duplicated. Haircut? Same one, same day. Instagram bio? Copy-pasted mine word for word, even the dog mom part, she doesn't own a dog. I gently confronted her. She laughed. It's a compliment. Sure. Compliment, con job, potato, psychological warfare. She began correcting me in conversations. Telling people what I liked or didn't like. One time she told a group I hated sushi, while I was literally holding chopsticks. She contradicted my stories. Stories that happened to me. Once she said, actually, that happened in 2019, not 2020, like she was my biographer. It was 2020. She wasn't even there. Then she started inviting people over to my apartment, without asking. Once I walked in and found her hosting a wine and cheese night for my friends. I wasn't invited. She said, I brought wine. Girl. It was $6 Moscato. This is not a ticket to trespass. The actual breaking point? I told her about a huge job opportunity in media marketing. Showed her my resume. Practiced my talking points. The next day, I show up for the interview and overhear the receptionist say, Are you sure this is the right Lexi? We already had someone interview for OP's position this morning. Guess who that was? Lexi. Using my name, my resume, my speaking style, my blazer. She told the company it was a social experiment. That she just wanted to see if she could pull off being me. She called it a compliment. I call it identity theft, and not the kind Dwight Schrute jokes about. I changed the locks. Blocked her on everything short of her Wi-Fi router. Removed her from every group chat and made a polite but firm PSA to mutual friends. She played the victim, of course. She's heartless. She overreacted. I was just helping her prepare. By impersonating me at an actual employer? Then she posted this cryptic story. Some people can't handle being truly seen. Woman shrugging. Ma'am. This isn't Black Swan. I'm not scared of being seen. I just don't want to wake up one day and find you've legally changed your name to mine and started dating my boyfriend. Some friends say I was cruel. That she clearly just admired me. Others, the ones who've had their boundaries tested by her too, said I did the right thing. But here I am, in the emotional ruins of a friendship that once felt like family, asking the one question that's haunted me through every screenshot, every creepy caption, every gaslit group chat. Am I the asshole? Or did Lexi go full doppelganger and deserve the boot? Am I the asshole for stealing my sister's baby, after she forgot him at IKEA? Let's rewind 3 weeks. 3 incredibly chaotic, heart-palpitating, wine-inducing weeks. At the time, I didn't know I was about to witness what can only be described as the parenting version of a nuclear disaster, complete with crying, mild property damage, government intervention, and a baby that somehow, miraculously, was more put together than his mother. Let me introduce you to my sister, Chelsea. Chelsea is 28. She is a new mom. She is also, and I say this with all the love in my heart, the human equivalent of a browser with 97 tabs open, and the music is playing, but you can't figure out where it's coming from. She has been that way since birth. Actually, no, I'm convinced she caused her own birth to be late because she probably misplaced her umbilical cord. I'm 26, the younger sister, the one our parents refer to as the reliable one, which is both flattering and also a lot of pressure, especially when your sibling is the kind of person who loses her keys in the fridge. When Chelsea announced she was pregnant, the family had one collective reaction: maybe this will calm her down. Like, maybe the weight of motherhood would settle her, ground her, somehow create a mental filing cabinet where before there was only a chaotic pile of Post-its and discarded coffee cups. Spoiler alert, it did not. If anything, her son, Oliver, has only highlighted the chaos. He's adorable, fat cheeks, big eyes, already judging people with the steely gaze of a therapist who knows you're lying. But it's clear, even in his infancy, that he knows his survival hinges on the people around him compensating for Chelsea's attention span. Which brings us to IKEA. Now listen, IKEA is not just a furniture store. It's a lifestyle. It's a maze of meatballs, emotional breakdowns, and existential dread camouflaged as modern Swedish minimalism. Anyone who's been in a relationship long enough knows IKEA is where good intentions go to die, usually in the lighting section. Chelsea texted me at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. Can you come with me to IKEA? I need help picking a crib. Simple enough. I had the day off. I like meatballs. I thought, why not? The worst that could happen is I get stuck behind someone blocking the tiny pencil station. We met in the parking lot. She was already frazzled, sunglasses on her head, diaper bag in the cart return, pushing Oliver in a stroller she forgot to buckle. She gave me a tight hug, then turned to Oliver and said in the voice parents use for dogs and babies and occasionally very stupid adults, "You ready to get a big boy bed, little man?" Oliver stared at her. No expression. No sound. Just pure judgment. We went inside. It started normal, which, if you know this story ends in child services, you'll know is just literary foreshadowing. Chelsea was talking nonstop about her Pinterest board, about how she wanted a Scandi farmhouse vibe, which I'm still convinced is just a way of saying I want everything to look expensive and beige. Oliver was quiet. Peaceful. Practically asleep. Everything was under control. Ish. We got to the nursery section. She oohed and awed at every crib like she was on a baby-themed episode of House Hunters. And then it happened. She found the crib, white wood, gently curved edges, some complicated Swedish name like Skernfakt or ASSPLA with diarisystz or something. She put Oliver down in it, just for a second, she said, so she could feel how sturdy it is. I watched her gently lower him in. Then she stood back, hands on hips, nodding approvingly. I made a mental note of how oddly comfortable Oliver looked, like he was about to drop a Spotify ambient noise playlist and just vibe. And then, well, we moved on. Not in a let's abandon a baby way. Just, casually. Naturally. We got distracted by a matching dresser. Then some mobiles. Then a brief detour for a framed print of a rabbit riding a unicycle because Chelsea thought it was whimsically ironic, a phrase that haunts me to this day. We ran. Full-on sprinted through the parking lot like contestants on Supermarket Sweep, dodging confused old couples and a man eating cinnamon buns too confidently. By the time we got to the nursery section, a crowd had gathered. IKEA security was standing around the crib. Oliver was still there. Still sleeping. Unbothered. Iconic. But next to security was a woman in a navy blazer and heels too sharp for retail space. She had a clipboard. A badge. And the specific vibe of someone who never lets her coffee get cold and is constantly disappointed in humanity. Chelsea was already sobbing. Sobbing like she'd just been told her house burned down and took her skincare products with it. The clipboard woman turned to us and said, "You must be the mother." There was no warmth in her voice. Just judgment and ballpoint pen. Turns out, IKEA security found Oliver during a routine display sweep. When no parent came forward within 15 minutes, they followed protocol and called the police, who then routed it to Child Protective Services. Chelsea explained, through tears and hiccups, that she thought I had him. I corrected her, less kindly than I intended, by reminding her she had put him in the crib. She had walked away. I was 3 steps behind her the whole time. The clipboard lady, her name was Janine, I would later learn, took our information. She made a note that Oliver seemed unharmed, calm, and disproportionately serene given the circumstances. That was a real quote. We weren't arrested. But a home visit was scheduled. Which, to be honest, was almost worse. I drove them home. Chelsea cried the entire way. Oliver slept the entire way. And I sat there, wondering if this would be a good time to fake my own death and start a new life in Canada. We got to her apartment. I helped her inside. She dropped onto the couch and held Oliver so tightly I half worried she was going to fuse them together. "I'm a terrible mother," she said, eyes red and swollen. I told her she wasn't. I told her she was overwhelmed. I told her she just needed a system. She nodded. Sniffled. Promised she'd get better. I believed her. Plot twist, I should not have. Let's just say the IKEA incident didn't stay a one-time thing. If anything, it was just the prologue. I thought after almost accidentally gifting her child to the Swedish gods of minimalist decor, Chelsea would have a full spiritual awakening. You know, the kind of traumatic wake-up call that causes a mom to join a Facebook support group, get one of those mom planners the size of a weapon, and start referring to everything as intentional parenting. Instead, Chelsea decided to go with vibes. 10 days. That's how long it took for 3 more disasters to unfold. 3. Count them. 3. It was a Wednesday afternoon. Chelsea needed diapers and oat milk, because of course she does, she's that level of crunchy meats target. She texted me saying she was doing a quick run to the store and asked if I wanted to come. I was at work, so I declined. Big mistake. Huge. About an hour later, I got a text. From Chelsea? No. From Susan. Susan is our childhood neighbor. She's also the president of the HOA, owns 7 cats, and lives to be involved in things that do not concern her. She texts me. Saw Oliver alone in a cart outside Sprouts. Police were there. Is Chelsea okay? Let me paint this picture for you. Chelsea had placed Oliver, still strapped into his car seat, on top of a shopping cart, gone inside to pay for groceries, and just left. Drove home. Drove home. I called her. She answered, calm as a cucumber in a Pinterest mason jar. I asked her where Oliver was. Her exact words. Oh, crap. I thought he was already in the car with me. You thought, you're literal human. Oliver was red-faced, sweaty, and absolutely losing it in his crib. I picked him up, tried to soothe him, and it took a full 10 minutes before Chelsea stirred. When she finally did, she blinked at me like I'd just materialized out of a dream. Oh. Sorry. I didn't even hear him. No kidding. Because you were listening to a guided meditation podcast. I confronted her then. Gently. I said, Chelsea, he's just a baby. He can't tell you what he needs. She waved me off and mumbled something about sensory overload and how moms need to preserve their own mental health too. Which, yes, they absolutely do, but not by ignoring their screaming newborn while plugged into some guy named Kyle whispering about forest meadows. Still, I gave her grace. Again. I shouldn't have. This one? This was the last straw. The whole haystack of nope. It was a Friday night. I was scrolling TikTok, eating dry cereal, and ignoring texts from a man who looked like he chews with his mouth open. Chelsea texts me. Going out for a few drinks, smiley face. Can you babysit? I respond immediately. Can't tonight, I have a thing. Who's watching Oliver? She replies. No worries. My neighbor Jasmine offered. She's so nice. Just moved in, but she has a good vibe. A good vibe. Not references. Not background checks. Not a mutual friend who could vouch for her. A good vibe. This woman had lived next door for 2 days. She could have been a serial killer. A kleptomaniac. An MLM recruiter. Anything. And Chelsea just handed her the baby. Like a free sample at Costco. I called her immediately. She didn't answer. Texted. No response. I debated driving over but decided instead to pay a visit to Jasmine, aka, a girl who didn't even have furniture in her apartment yet. I knocked. Jasmine opened the door in a hoodie, holding Oliver like he was radioactive. She looked terrified. He's been crying since she left, she whispered. I don't think he likes me. I don't think I like you either, Jasmine, but that's not your fault. I scooped up Oliver, calmed him down, and waited. 3 hours later, Chelsea stumbled in, tipsy, mascara smudged, breath like a Red Bull mojito. I told her we needed to talk. This is where it all boiled over. I said, calmly, Chelsea, this isn't working. Oliver is not okay. You're not okay. You need help. She rolled her eyes so hard I thought she'd sprain a cornea. You're being so judgmental. I said, I'm being realistic. You just don't get it. You don't have kids. You don't know how hard it is. That one hurt. Because she's not wrong. I don't have kids. I don't know what it's like to do it alone. But I do know this. I don't leave my hypothetical kids in shopping carts. I don't nap through emergency sirens. And I don't hand them off to strangers with half-unpacked U-Hauls because they seem cool. I told her she had 2 options. 1, let me move in temporarily to help her get back on her feet. 2, I report her to CPS. She laughed. Laughed. Said I was just jealous of the attention Oliver got. That I always had to be the responsible one and couldn't handle not being the star. Right. Because this whole time I was secretly dying to be the lead in a horror story starring a neglected infant and a playlist called Ways of Sleep. She stormed off. Slammed the bedroom door. I left. And the next morning? I called CPS. There it is. I did it. I made the call. I didn't do it lightly. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it because Chelsea, the girl who once lost her passport in a bag of kettle corn, was now in charge of a tiny, helpless human. And someone had to prioritize him. Even if it wasn't his mom. When Child Protective Services gave Chelsea 7 days, 1 whole week, to prove she could safely parent, I held my breath. Truly, I wanted her to rise to the occasion. Get some help. Find a routine. Maybe invest in a planner, or at the very least, a whiteboard and a functioning sense of urgency. Instead, she tripled down on chaos. Let me back up. When CPS officially opened their case, the social worker assigned to Chelsea was a woman named Marla, mid-40s, clinical calm, wore glasses on a chain and spoke like she'd seen it all, because she had. She showed up for the initial visit. She showed Marla a pack-and-play in the corner, said Oliver eats whenever he cries, and casually stepped over a laundry pile that could qualify as a geological formation. There were empty bottles on the counter, wine and formula, the diaper bag was missing half the essentials, and when Marla asked where the baby monitor was, Chelsea said, "Oh, I think it's under the couch. Or maybe in my tote bag?" Marla gave me one of those looks. You know, the one, halfway between sympathy and why do I feel like I'm the adult here? When Oliver started fussing during the visit, Chelsea handed him to me like I was the default setting. She didn't even hesitate. Just, here, he likes you more anyway. Not a great look. At the end of the visit, Marla calmly explained that while this wasn't a case of abuse, it was a case of neglect. Repeated, documented, escalating neglect. She gave Chelsea 1 week to make serious changes, to prove she could provide a safe, stable environment. 1 week. Chelsea said, of course, absolutely, 100%, with all the conviction of someone who says they're going to start doing yoga next Monday. Spoiler alert, Monday came. And nothing changed. In fact, things got worse. On day 3, she no-showed her required parenting class. On day 5, she missed a wellness check because she overslept after a wine and cheese night with friends. And on day 6, Marla popped by unannounced and found Chelsea not home, but Oliver was. With yet another neighbor, a 19-year-old college student who was watching him for a sec while Chelsea ran to Target. That was it. The final strike. Marla called me that night. You're his godmother, correct? Yes. I am. I took that title seriously when I agreed to it. I didn't know I'd be cashing it in like this, but yes, I said yes. We're initiating emergency temporary custody. Can you take him immediately? I said yes before she even finished the sentence. Suddenly, I'm mom adjacent. I picked up Oliver that same night. His stuff was packed into a trash bag. A trash bag, people. Like he was an unwanted sweater getting returned to Goodwill. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. He came home with me and immediately did what babies do. He slept, cried, pooped, and changed absolutely everything. My tiny apartment became baby central overnight. I turned my home office into a nursery. I googled things like how to baby-proof outlets and what's a normal amount of spit up before I call 911. I was terrified. And determined. And completely in love with this squishy, serious-faced baby who already had better instincts than his mother. I wanted to believe Chelsea would come around. I really did. But then came the TikTok. The TikTok heard round the internet. Chelsea went nuclear. Like, full meltdown meets megaphone meets main character syndrome. She posted a TikTok, framed in soft lighting, dramatic music, tears glistening just so, where she painted herself as a victim. Said her jealous sister had stolen her baby. That I'd manipulated CPS because I couldn't handle being the childless loser in the family. She called me a traitor sister. A baby thief. Said I had weaponized concern as a way to insert myself into her life and steal what wasn't mine. It went semi-viral. Not full viral, but just viral enough to make my life a flaming mess. The kind of TikTok where the comments section turns into a courtroom with 0 evidence and 1,000 self-appointed judges. Suddenly, I had strangers in my DMs. "You monster. Give the baby back. You're just bitter you can't have kids of your own." This is what happens when jealous women get access to the system. One person even said I looked like the type who definitely calls the cops on kids selling lemonade. Cool. Chelsea doubled down. She posted follow-ups. She cried into ring lights. She reposted screenshots of my texts, out of context, of course, and framed it like I'd been plotting this since the IKEA incident. Which, lol. If I was plotting this, I'd have at least bought a new bra and cleaned my apartment. Our mom is torn. She called me crying. Said she didn't know what to believe. That Chelsea is clearly unwell, but also clearly hurting. That maybe this didn't have to get this far. I told her, it got this far because nobody else stepped up. Half the family supports me. My aunt, my cousins, even our stepdad have called to say I did the right thing. That Oliver's safety matters more than Chelsea's ego. The other half? Let's just say there are now 2 family group chats. One includes me. The other doesn't. One uncle sent me a Bible verse about forgiveness. Oliver's with me. Legally, temporarily, but safe. Chelsea's under CPS review. She's allowed supervised visitation, but so far has only shown up once, for 15 minutes. She brought a stuffed animal, took a selfie, and left. I'm exhausted. I'm scared. I've cried more in the past week than I did during The Fault in Our Stars. But when I hold Oliver, when he falls asleep on my chest like he knows he's finally safe, it's worth it. I didn't want to be the villain in someone's narrative. I didn't want to steal a baby. I wanted Chelsea to step up. To be the mom I know she could be, if she just, for once, got out of her own way. But until then, I'll be here. The godmother turned guardian. The baby thief. The villain. Or maybe, just the adult who finally remembered what this was all supposed to be about in the first place. The baby. Let me preface this by saying, last weekend was an actual soap opera. A full-blown, scene-chewing, door-slamming, you'll hear from my lawyer meltdown that ended with cops on my porch, a screaming sister in my driveway, and my cat hiding under the couch like he'd just witnessed a crime. Let's rewind. It was a Saturday. A rare day off. I had plans. And by plans, I mean I was about to sit on the couch in sweatpants, binge bad reality TV, and eat peanut butter out of the jar like the proud, tired godmother mother-aunt legal guardian hybrid that I am. Oliver was having a good day. He'd taken a nap. Twice. He smiled when I sang the Itsy Bitsy Spider, and for a brief, glorious moment, it felt like I was getting the hang of this. Then came the knock. I checked the peephole. Chelsea. Hair frizzy. Eyes wild. Holding what I can only describe as a mom reclamation starter pack, a baby blanket, a bottle, and a very shaky sense of entitlement. She didn't wait for me to open the door. She yelled through it. I'm here for my son. Now, to be clear, I wasn't holding Oliver hostage. This isn't Gone Baby Gone. I had emergency court-ordered temporary custody. The kind with paperwork and signatures and all the heavy, soul-crushing legality one hopes to never experience at 26. I cracked the door open a few inches. Chelsea, you're not supposed to be here unannounced. You know that. She scoffed. He's my child. I don't need your permission. Yes. Yes, she does. Per the legal agreement. Per the CPS case. Per common sense. I calmly told her that if she wanted to see Oliver, she had to go through the proper channels. Supervised visitation. Scheduled. With a third-party mediator present. She did not like that answer. Chelsea tried to push past me. Full-on shoulder shove. I blocked her, gently but firmly. Meanwhile, Oliver, who had been peacefully gnawing on a giraffe-shaped teether, started to cry, sensing the emotional hurricane forming outside his safe bubble. Chelsea turned red. screamed something about how I was poisoning him against her. Again, he's 7 months old, and that I was trying to erase her. And then she did what any mature adult does in a crisis. She called the cops. Right there, on my front lawn. 2 officers showed up. Both were immediately hit with Chelsea's deluge of emotional rage. She pointed at me like I was a Disney villain mid-monologue. Said I'd stolen her baby, brainwashed social services, and was now refusing to give him back out of jealousy. One of the officers turned to me and asked, "Ma'am, do you have any documentation regarding custody?" "Oh, do I?" I whipped out the folder containing the emergency custody papers. I had them in a drawer by the door specifically because I knew, deep in my bones, that this day was coming. I call that drawer the Chelsea Emergency Kit. They read it. They nodded. They told Chelsea, very gently, that she couldn't legally remove Oliver from my care. And that's when she lost it. I mean, screaming, crying, "I'm going to sue you into the ground" energy. It was less concerned mom and more Real Housewife in the middle of a table flip. Eventually, one of the officers walked her to her car while the other apologized to me on her behalf. I stood in the doorway, holding Oliver, who had spit up on my shirt sometime during the drama and was now hiccuping like a tiny, unimpressed CEO. Later that night, Chelsea made her next move. She posted another TikTok. This one was even more unhinged than the last. She titled it, "When your sister steals your baby and the cops let her broken heart #Justice for Oliver." In the video, she sobbed under a filter that made her eyes sparkle like anime characters. She said I'd plotted this for years, that I couldn't stand not being the favorite, and that I'd turned her into a villain for caring too much. But the real kicker? She introduced her legal counsel. Derek now apparently believes he is the second coming of Atticus Finch, because in the video he said, and I quote, "We are building a case. This is unlawful custody rooted in sibling rivalry and jealousy. Unlawful custody. The one granted by a judge." The comments were a mix of support and chaos. "Stay strong mama, flexed biceps, broken heart. If my sister ever did this I'd disown her FR. Wait, do you have court docs or not? This feels like you left your kid in IKEA and now you're mad he didn't come back." Chelsea tried to reply to every comment, correcting the narrative, pushing her side, threatening to expose the full story in a YouTube tell-all. I wish I was kidding. While all this is happening, Oliver is amazing. He's happy. He's safe. He's sleeping a little more. Eating like a champ. He started making this giggle snort when I blow raspberries on his tummy, and it's possibly the only thing keeping me sane. He hasn't been left in a car. Or with a stranger. Or in a shopping cart in front of a grocery store. And every day, I fall a little more in love with this weird, wiggly human who didn't ask for any of this. But I can't lie. I'm exhausted. I'm 26. I work full-time. I have a job that demands focus. I have bills. I have exactly 1.3 friends and no dating life to speak of. My kitchen sink currently looks like a crime scene, and I've worn the same hoodie for 3 days. I'm scared I'm going to mess this up. That I'm going to make a mistake and someone, Chelsea, Derek the dollar store lawyer, the algorithm, is going to use it as proof I'm unfit. Sometimes I cry in the shower. Sometimes I cry while holding Oliver. Sometimes I cry while reheating pasta and pretending it's a meal. But what else was I supposed to do? Let him stay with someone who forgets he exists? Let him be raised by a mom who treats childcare like an optional subscription? Let a TikTok comment section decide what kind of home he deserves? No. Absolutely not. I've lawyered up too. Real lawyer. Real degrees. Real concern for Oliver's well-being. The custody hearing is in a few weeks. Until then, I'm documenting everything, every missed visit, every online rant, every DM Chelsea sends me that begins with "you manipulative B***TCH" and ends with a rose emoji. Why? Why the rose? I don't know what the outcome will be. I just know this, Oliver deserves a chance. A real one. And if that means I have to be the villain in Chelsea's TikTok saga, so be it. Because I'd rather be a villain with a diaper bag than a bystander with regrets. And here we are. Court. Not the cute kind, where you dress up to fight a parking ticket and leave with a muffin. No, this was the custody of, why have you missed the court-ordered parenting classes? She shrugged. I don't have time. I've been dealing with a lot. Ma'am. We all have. You're not special because you own a calendar. When asked why she'd missed supervised visits, she blamed me. Said I intentionally scheduled them at bad times. Said I created a hostile environment. I didn't even flinch. My lawyer didn't have to say a word. The CPS rep did. She calmly told the court that Chelsea had been given multiple scheduling options. That she'd ghosted 2 supervisors. That her phone was frequently disconnected, and when it wasn't, she'd been caught posting TikToks during visitation windows. That one stung. She turned red. Then the CPS rep said something I'll never forget. While this is not a case of abuse, it is a case of chronic, escalating neglect. The child, Oliver, has shown clear signs of improvement and stability in his temporary guardian's care. Our recommendation is that permanent guardianship be considered. And then, silence. You could hear the collective inhale. Even Chelsea looked stunned. We didn't get a final ruling that day. The judge set a follow-up date to allow Chelsea one final opportunity to attend classes and visitation. One last window. She hasn't taken it. As of this post, she's missed 2 more visits. She posted a TikTok during one of them, lip-syncing to a Lana Del Rey song with the caption, "Ripped away from my own blood broken heart #justice for me." She hasn't texted me once about Oliver. But she has posted. She calls me a narcissistic snake. She tells people I snatched her baby like a lifetime villain. One cousin, who I haven't spoken to since she got blackout drunk at my 22nd birthday, even made a Reddit post about me. Tagged me in it. Called me a power-hungry narcissist who wanted to play mom with someone else's child. Cool. My DMs are still a dumpster fire. My inbox is full of strangers calling me a sociopath, a child stealer, a controlling Karen. One person sent me an actual snake emoji every hour for a whole day. I laugh about it now, because I have to. But back then? I cried in the shower. Again. Oliver is thriving. He's growing. He's sleeping longer, praise be. He reaches for me when he's scared and smiles when I walk into the room. He knows my voice. He knows I'm his person. He has a bedtime routine now. A high chair. A pediatrician who doesn't sigh when asked questions. He has stability. He has peace. And I didn't mean to become that for him. I really didn't. I never wanted to be a mom. I wanted to be a sister. I wanted Chelsea to be the mom. I wanted to babysit, visit, support, cheer her on. Instead, here we are. And every day that passes, I feel more attached to him. More like, maybe this was always supposed to be me. Maybe the god and godmother was never symbolic. But I'm tired. I'm scared. And I know this story has no easy ending. Because no matter how many diapers I change or lullabies I learn, I can't change biology. I can't erase Chelsea. And maybe, deep down, I don't even want to. I want her to get better. I just don't know if she wants the same. So now I'm here. Writing to strangers on the internet. To ask the question I've been too afraid to say out loud. Am I the asshole for taking my sister's baby after she forgot him at IKEA? Was there a point I should have backed off? Let her figure it out. Waited for her to crash and burn without intervening? Or did I do the right thing, even if the right thing made me the villain?
Am I the asshole for kicking my brother out after he tried to test my fiancé? If you had asked me a year ago who the most important people in my life were, I would have said, without hesitation, my younger brother Luke and my fiancée Emma. It's funny how your world can narrow down to a few names. Two people who, in very different ways, have defined who I am. Luke, my partner in crime since childhood, and Emma, the woman who somehow makes me believe in things I never thought were real. Like trust, commitment, and the kind of love that makes movies look like bad knockoffs. Luke is 3 years younger than me, 26 to my 29, and in almost every way he's my opposite. Where I'm measured, Luke is reckless. Where I'm careful with my words, Luke seems to treat every conversation like an open mic night. It's not that he's mean, he's not. He's just Luke, loud, confident. The kind of guy who seems to radiate this effortless charm that either draws you in or makes you want to throttle him. I've seen him flirt with waitresses, cashiers, my own female friends, hell, even my fiancée Emma. But that's just Luke being Luke, right? Or at least that's what I used to tell myself. When Emma and I first got engaged, Luke was, predictably, the loudest person in the room. He hugged me so hard I thought my spine might give way, then immediately turned to Emma with his trademark grin and said, "Don't worry. If my brother screws this up, I'll be here to catch you, Emma." Everyone laughed, because that's what you do when Luke speaks. It's automatic. He's got this way of making everything sound like a joke, even when there's something sharp hiding under it. Emma laughed too, though I saw a flicker of something in her eyes. It wasn't discomfort exactly, but I filed it away as, well, maybe a little weird. I mean, who says that? My brother, apparently. I brushed it off, because that's what I've always done with Luke. Brushed it off. Excused it. It's just his way of joking, I told myself. He doesn't mean anything by it. But then came the dinner party. Emma and I had been planning this small get-together for weeks. Nothing big. Just a few close friends, some good food, and the satisfaction of finally showing off the apartment we'd spent months turning into something that looked less like two random people sharing space and more like an actual home. Emma loves hosting. She has this incredible ability to make everything feel warm, welcoming. Like the world just slows down when she's in charge of an evening. We invited 6 people, my best friend Mark and his girlfriend, 2 of Emma's college friends, and, of course, Luke. I thought it would be fun. A chance for everyone to relax, laugh, maybe play some stupid card game after dessert. The first couple of hours were perfect. Luke showed up late, naturally, with that lopsided grin and a bottle of wine he probably picked up 5 minutes before arriving. He hugged Emma like she was his long-lost cousin, slapped me on the back, and immediately started telling some story about how he got hit on by a woman in the grocery store parking lot on his way over. It was fine. It was Luke. He was being his usual self. But then, somewhere between the main course and dessert, things shifted. We were all sitting around the table, wine glasses half empty, the warm buzz of conversation filling the room. Luke had been unusually quiet for a few minutes, which, if you know Luke, is a sign he's either thinking of something clever or something stupid to say. Unfortunately, this time it was both. "So," Luke said suddenly, leaning back in his chair and looking right at Emma, "you two are getting married soon, huh?" Emma smiled. "That's the plan, yes." "You know," Luke continued, swirling the wine in his glass like some kind of discount philosopher, "I've always believed couples need to be tested before marriage, to make sure they're the real deal." I chuckled, thinking he was about to launch into one of his ridiculous stories about relationships. "What, like a trust fall?" Luke smirked. "Something like that. Don't worry, Emma. I'll make sure you pass the test." There was this pause, a flicker of silence that settled over the table like dust. Everyone else laughed nervously because that's the thing with Luke. People don't know if he's joking or serious, so they just laugh. But Emma didn't laugh. She just looked at him, this unreadable expression on her face, like she wasn't sure how to respond. I tried to "Hey," I said, nudging her. "What's on your mind?" She hesitated. "It's Luke. He makes me uncomfortable sometimes." I felt a strange jolt in my chest. "What do you mean?" "He's just, you know how he is. He jokes around." "Yeah, but it doesn't always feel like a joke. That thing he said about testing couples? I don't know. The way he said it felt weird. I didn't know what to say. Luke has always been like that. But hearing Emma say it out loud made me feel defensive and uneasy all at once. I promised her I'd talk to him if he crossed the line again. But the truth, I didn't really believe he would, because that's just Luke, right? I didn't sleep that night. It was one of those nights where your brain feels like a broken film reel. Scenes from the evening just keep flickering in your head, looping over and over, each time darker and uglier. Emma's voice, quiet but firm, replayed in my mind. He cornered me in the kitchen. I can still picture the moment she told me. It was well past midnight. The apartment smelled like leftover food and faint traces of wine. Emma was curled up on the couch, knees pulled to her chest, her hair falling loosely over her face. I was putting the last of the dishes away when she said it, softly at first, like she was testing whether I'd actually heard her. "Your brother, Luke, he said some things tonight, in the kitchen, when you were outside." I turned to her, dish towel in hand, the words catching in my throat. "What do you mean, said some things?" Her voice was calm, but I could tell she was holding it together. "He told me I was too good for you, that I deserve someone who can actually make me laugh." She let out a bitter little laugh, shaking her head. "Then he asked me out for drinks, as some kind of test, to see if I really love you." I remember just standing there, gripping the edge of the counter like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. For a moment, I didn't even know how to process it. I wanted to believe there was some misunderstanding, that maybe she'd misheard him or he was drunk and trying to be funny, but then I thought about the dinner table, that stupid wink, the way he said test, and I knew this wasn't just Luke being Luke anymore. Emma's eyes softened when she saw my face. I shut him down, obviously. I told him I love you, that I'm marrying you, and I walked out of the kitchen. But you needed to know. I wish I could tell you I stormed over to Luke's place right then and there, that I knocked on his door and told him to stay the hell out of my life if he couldn't respect my relationship. But that's not what happened. Instead, I sat there, frozen, angry and humiliated in equal measure. Luke was my brother, my little brother, the kid I taught how to ride a bike, the guy who helped me sneak beers into our parents' basement when we were teenagers. How the hell did we get here? I didn't trust myself to talk to him on the phone. I needed to say something fast, but if I called, I knew I'd end up yelling, and yelling never gets through to Luke. So I texted, "Me, what the hell were you thinking tonight?" Emma told me everything. The typing bubble appeared, then disappeared, then reappeared again. My hands were sweating as I stared at the screen. "Luke, chill out, man. I was just testing her. If she's the one, she wouldn't say yes." I swear, I could feel my pulse in my teeth. My vision went red. Testing her? Who does that? Who corners their own brother's fiancée and calls it a test? Luke and I, we don't fight. Not really. Growing up, we had the usual sibling stuff. Arguments over who got the front seat, wrestling matches that ended when mom yelled from the kitchen. But as adults, we've always had this unspoken bond. I think part of it comes from losing our dad when we were young. I was 15, Luke was only 12, and I became this half-brother, half-father figure for him. I was the one who showed him how to shave, how to talk to girls, ironic in hindsight, how to deal with our mom's overprotectiveness. But somewhere along the way, Luke took the cool younger brother role and ran with it. He became the guy everyone loved at parties, the one who always had a story, a joke, a girl on his arm. And I was fine with that. I was proud of him, even. But this felt like a betrayal I didn't even have a name for. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't before. Emma trusted me to handle it, not to explode, not to let it fester. She trusted me to stand up for her, for us. Picked up my phone again. My thumbs hovered over the screen for a moment. Then I typed, "Me, you don't get to test her. She's not some game. If you can't respect my relationship, you're not welcome around us." He took a few minutes to respond. I imagined him sitting there, maybe with a drink in hand, laughing at my overreaction. "Luke, bro, you're taking this way too seriously. I was kidding. Chill." "Me? No, you weren't kidding. Don't ever talk to her like that again." This time, there was no typing bubble, just silence. Even after the exchange, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over, that Luke wasn't going to just shrug and move on. Because Luke doesn't back down. He doubles down. And part of me, some paranoid protective part, Wondered if this whole test thing was just his way of seeing how far he could push before I snapped. That night, lying next to Emma, I stared at the ceiling and thought about all the things I didn't know how to say, like how I felt torn in two, between the brother I grew up with and the woman I wanted to spend my life with, between loyalty and love. The call wasn't planned. It wasn't one of those conversations you rehearse in your head, telling yourself you'll stay calm and be reasonable. No, this was the kind of call that happens when you've been bottling things up for too long, and the pressure inside you reaches a point where it just explodes. I called Luke the next morning, right after Emma left for work. I didn't even sit down. I paced the apartment, phone in hand, heart pounding in my chest like it was trying to warn me that I was about to do something I couldn't take back. When he picked up, his voice was too casual, too smug. "Yo, big bro, what's up? You cool now?" Cool? That single word snapped something inside me. Cool? I barked, my voice sharp enough that I could feel the heat in my cheeks. "You think I'm cool with you cornering Emma in the kitchen and asking her out for drinks? You think I'm cool with you testing my relationship like I'm some clueless idiot who can't tell if my fiancé is loyal or not?" There was a pause. I could hear him exhale, slow and deliberate, like he was still half asleep. "Man, you're really making this into a big deal." "A big deal? Are you kidding me? You hit on my fiancé while I was right outside. You disrespected me, Emma, and our relationship all in one night. How the hell is that not a big deal?" Luke laughed, actually laughed. "You're welcome, by the way." For a moment, I was so stunned I didn't even know how to respond. "You're what?" "You're welcome," he repeated, like I'd missed something obvious. I mean, think about it. If she'd said yes, if she was into me, wouldn't you want to know that before the wedding? I was doing you a favor, man. There's a unique kind of rage that comes when someone insults your intelligence while pretending they're doing you a favor. I gripped the phone so hard I thought I might snap it in half. "A favor? You cornered her. You made her uncomfortable in her own home. That's not a favor, Luke. That's you crossing the line so hard I can't even see it anymore." "Chill, bro," he said, and I swear, if he'd been standing in front of me, I don't know what I would have done. "You're blowing this way out of proportion. I wasn't hitting on her, not really. I was just joking around, testing her a little. You know me, I like to push buttons." "No," I said, my voice low now, all the fire simmering into something darker. "This wasn't a joke. You don't get to treat my relationship like it's some kind of game. You don't get to talk to Emma like that ever again. Do you understand me?" There was another long silence, and then Luke's voice shifted. He wasn't laughing anymore. There was something colder now, sharper. "Wow, so this is how it's gonna be? You're gonna let some girl come between us? You're really choosing her over family?" I closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose. "Luke, she's not some girl. She's the woman I'm going to marry. And yes, if you're asking me to pick between her and you, when you act like this, I'm choosing her. Every single time." "Unbelievable," he muttered. "After everything I've done for you. What exactly have you done for me, Luke? Seriously, name one thing you've done lately that wasn't just about you." That's when the shouting started. He accused me of being whipped. He said Emma was changing me, that I used to be cool before I started letting her control my life. I told him to grow the hell up and stop treating women like they're props in some game he's playing. He told me I was acting like dad. A low blow that hit me right in the chest. Finally, I just said it. "I don't want you anywhere near Emma. Not for now. Not until you can learn how to respect her and me." There was a sharp inhale on the other end of the line. "Wow, you're really gonna regret this, man. Goodbye, Luke." I hung up before I could hear anything else. I sat there for a long time after the call, my hands trembling, my heart still hammering like I just run a marathon. Felt wrong. Not because I didn't mean what I said I did, but because I'd never drawn a line with Luke before. Not like that. Not so definitively. When Emma came home that night, I told her everything. She wrapped her arms around me and said she was proud of me for standing up to him. But I could see it in her eyes, the guilt, the worry that she'd somehow caused all this tension between us. "You didn't cause this," I told her. kissing the top of her head. Luke did. This is on him. I wish I could tell you that was the end of it. That Luke called a week later, apologized, and we all moved on like adults. But that's not Luke. That's not how my brother operates. 2 days later, I got a text from my mom. Why is Luke saying you banned him from your place? What's going on? You'd think telling your parents about something like this would bring clarity. You'd think they'd hear the story, look at Luke, and say, yeah, son, you messed up. But families don't work like that. Not mine, anyway. When I told my parents what Luke did, it was like dropping a grenade into the middle of a living room and waiting to see who would jump on it. Dad didn't even hesitate. As soon as I finished explaining how Luke had cornered Emma, what he said, how he tried to twist it into some test. My dad's jaw tightened in that way that means he's beyond angry but trying to hold it in. That's disgusting, he said, his voice low, deliberate. He owes both of you an apology. Period. I felt a wave of relief. Dad's not the type to sugarcoat things, and hearing him side with me felt like someone was finally saying out loud what I'd been screaming in my head since that night. Thanks, Dad, I muttered. But then came Mom. Okay, yes, maybe he went a little too far, she started, holding her hands up like a referee trying to stop a fight. But that's just how Luke jokes. You know how he is. He doesn't mean anything by it. Don't ruin your brotherly bond over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. That word made my skin crawl. Mom, I said, trying not to yell. He hit on my fiancé. That's not a joke. That's not something you brush off. She waved her hand like she was swatting a fly. Oh, please. Luke has a big personality, but he loves you. He was probably just teasing, trying to see if Emma would laugh. Emma didn't laugh. I didn't laugh. And the fact that my mom was standing there, brushing it off like Luke was some adorable little rascal who just stole a cookie before dinner, it made me realize something. This is why Luke never takes responsibility for anything. Because Mom never makes him. Luke wasn't there when I told them, probably for the best. But of course he found out anyway. My phone buzzed the next morning with a text from him. So you went crying to Mom and Dad? Seriously. No apology. No ownership. Just more deflection. And as if that wasn't enough, Luke started spinning his version of the story to anyone who would listen. According to him, I overreacted and disrespected family. He made it sound like I banned him from my life just because he made a harmless joke. Meanwhile, Emma's been quiet through all of this. Too quiet. I can tell she feels uncomfortable even being in the same room as Luke now, and honestly, I don't blame her. When we went over to my parents' house for dinner last week, she sat stiffly at the table, avoiding eye contact with him. He, of course, acted like nothing was wrong, like we were all just supposed to forget. Maybe I shouldn't come next time, Emma whispered to me on the drive home. What do you mean? I asked, gripping the steering wheel. She sighed. It's just awkward. He keeps staring, and your mom keeps acting like I'm the one who's overreacting. I don't want to make things worse for you. That cut me deep, because Emma shouldn't have to feel like the bad guy here. She's the victim in all this. And yet, somehow, Luke's managed to twist the narrative so I'm the overprotective brother, Emma's too sensitive. And he's just the lovable goof who didn't mean it. Dad's been calling me privately, telling me to stand my ground. Don't let your mom guilt you into this, he said during our last call. Luke needs to learn that actions have consequences. He's been skating by on charm for too long. Meanwhile, Mom's leaving me voicemails like this. Honey, can't you just talk to Luke? He misses you. He said he was only joking. Don't let Emma come between you two. You're brothers. You're supposed to have each other's backs. Every time I listen to those voicemails, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Having each other's backs doesn't mean letting your brother hit on your fiancé. It doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. Luke, of course, is playing the victim card like he invented it. He's been telling our cousins, our friends, anyone who'll listen that I'm choosing her over family and throwing away 26 years of brotherhood over a joke. But here's the thing. Family doesn't give you a free pass to disrespect the people you love. If anything, it should make you less likely to cross that line. I don't know what happens next. Emma's made it clear that if Luke doesn't apologize, She doesn't want him at the wedding. Dad agrees with her. Mom, predictably, says banning Luke would be cruel and unforgivable. The problem is, I'm starting to think Emma's right. If Luke can't own up to this, how can I trust him to be anywhere near her on the most important day of our lives? There's a point in every family feud where you have to decide. Do you keep trying to keep the peace, or do you protect your own sanity? For me, that point came last night. I called Luke one final time. It wasn't easy. Part of me hoped he would have reached out by now, maybe with some kind of half-hearted apology. But no, Luke doesn't apologize. Luke doubles down. "Look," I said, before he could launch into one of his sarcastic greetings. "This is it. If you can't sincerely apologize to Emma for what you did, you're not coming to the wedding." For a moment, there was silence. Then he let out this incredulous laugh, like I just told him I was moving to Mars. "You're serious? You're really gonna ban your own brother from your wedding? Over a test?" I clenched my jaw so hard I could feel it in my temples. "It wasn't a test, Luke. It was harassment. You cornered her. You disrespected me, you disrespected her. And you're still refusing to take any accountability. Bro, you're being dramatic," he said, his tone dripping with that same arrogance that's been driving me insane since this started. "You're letting some random woman control you. We're blood. That should mean something." "Random woman?" I repeated, my voice cracking with disbelief. "She's my fiancée, Luke. She's the woman I'm going to marry. If you can't respect her, then you don't respect me. And I'm done pretending like that's okay just because you're my brother." Of course, my mom found out about that conversation within hours, because Luke can't go 5 minutes without running to her. She called me, voice tight with frustration. "Honey, please. He's your brother. You can't just not invite him. Do you know how humiliating that will be for our family? Do you know how humiliating it was for Emma when he hit on her in our kitchen?" I shot back, because apparently nobody wants to talk about that part. Mom sighed, the kind of long, theatrical sigh that says, "I'm disappointed in you," without using those exact words. "You're letting her come between you two," she said. "One day you'll regret this." I don't think I will, because the truth is, Emma is my family now, or at least she's about to be. And if I can't protect her, if I can't stand up for her when my own brother crosses a line, what kind of husband would I even be? Luke's been sulking ever since. I've gotten texts from cousins, friends, even one of my uncles, all saying some version of, "Man, it's not worth the drama. Just let him come." But here's the thing, why is the drama my fault? Why is it on me to let it go when Luke is the one who caused this mess in the first place? Emma, bless her, told me she'd support whatever I decided. "If you want him there, I won't say anything," she said. "But I won't feel safe around him. Not after what he said to me." And that was all I needed to hear. So that's it. Luke is out. Unless he magically grows a conscience and apologizes. And let's be real, that's not happening. He won't be at the wedding. My dad's quietly backing me on this. My mom, on the other hand, is acting like I've declared war on the entire family tree. So Reddit, am I the asshole for kicking my brother out of my life and my wedding after he tried to test my fiancée? Because right now, it feels like I'm the only one who sees how messed up this whole situation really is.
I exposed my best friend's husband. Now everyone hates me. If Instagram ever needed a stock photo for perfect couple, it would have been Emma and Lucas. No question. They were the kind of people you'd see casually holding hands while pushing a cart in Whole Foods, both dressed like they'd just stepped off a Pinterest mood board titled effortlessly chic but expensive. Everyone called them the golden couple. The name wasn't even sarcastic. People actually meant it. They had that glow, both literally and figuratively. Their skin, their teeth, their impossibly symmetrical faces, life just seemed to have handpicked them to be the main characters of suburbia. When I say dream wedding, I'm talking about the kind of wedding where every photo looks like it was ripped out of a bridal magazine. There was a floral archway that looked like it cost more than my car, fairy lights that wrapped around the venue like a galaxy, and a band that somehow made even ABBA's Dancing Queen sound like a live recording at the Grammys. Then came the house. White picket fence. Check. Wraparound porch? Check. The kind of kitchen where every cabinet has those soft close hinges so you never hear a single clunk? Check. It was the kind of place where, if someone told you it was haunted, you'd be relieved because at least that would make it seem less intimidatingly perfect. And then there was Lucas. Lucas was the guy every guy secretly hates because he's just annoyingly good at everything. He's charming but not in that fake, slimy way. He's the kind of guy who remembers your dog's name, listens when you talk, and somehow always smells like cedarwood and fresh laundry. He can cook like a Michelin chef. Once he casually whipped up handmade pasta on a random Thursday night just because Emma said she was craving Italian. Who does that? Emma, of course, is my best friend. She's been my person since high school, the kind of friend you can call at 2 a.m., crying about absolutely nothing, and she'll bring over ice cream and sit on your floor until you feel like a human again. We have one of those friendships where we can spend 3 hours together, not say a word, and still walk away feeling like it was the best time ever. I always joked that she won the husband lottery, and she'd always roll her eyes and say, "You're just biased because you've seen him cook steak." Which, yeah. Maybe I was a little biased. But who wouldn't be? Lucas was the kind of man who seemed to actually listen when women talked about their day. He wasn't just nodding, he remembered details. He once asked me, "Hey, how's that coworker Mark? Did he ever stop microwaving fish in the office?" I'd only told Emma about Mark the fish guy once. That was the kind of detail Lucas held on to. But here's the thing about perfection, about people like Emma and Lucas. From the outside, it looks like a smooth, flawless surface. But what no one tells you is that perfection isn't sustainable. It's like a polished piece of glass. One wrong move, one crack, and the whole thing can shatter. And for them, that crack started on a random Tuesday afternoon. I wasn't supposed to be at the cafe that day. I wasn't even supposed to be in that part of town. But I had this dumb craving for an iced coffee, specifically the $3 kind from Joe's Corner Cafe. It's the kind of place that always smells like cinnamon rolls and regret because you end up spending way more time there than you planned. I walked in wearing my laundry day outfit, sweatpants that had seen better days and a hoodie that I'm 90% sure used to be white but now exists in some shade of mystery beige. My hair was in a bun that could only be described as survivor of a tornado, and I was 100% hoping I wouldn't see anyone I knew. Spoiler, I did. At first, I didn't recognize him. I mean, Lucas wasn't supposed to be there. Lucas works from home on Tuesdays. He's one of those people who likes to brag about how his office commute is just the walk from his bedroom to his laptop. So when I saw a familiar tall figure leaning casually against the counter, talking to the barista, I had to blink a few times just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. It was Lucas. But he wasn't alone. Standing next to him was someone. A woman. And not just any woman, one of those women who look like they live inside a skincare commercial. She had perfect wavy hair, glossy lipstick, and that kind of outfit that screams, "I didn't try hard, but I still look like I have my life together." They were laughing. Like, really laughing. The kind of laughing where you lean in close, where your shoulders brush, where there's that invisible bubble around the two of you and the rest of the world fades out. I stood there frozen like an idiot, my $3 iced coffee order suddenly feeling like the most important purchase of my life because I had no idea what else to do. Was this innocent? Probably. I mean, Lucas is a friendly guy. Maybe this woman was a coworker or a neighbor. But there was something off. It wasn't just the way they laughed, it was the way Lucas looked at her. Like he was really paying attention. Like every word she said was the most interesting thing he'd heard all day. And I've seen Lucas look at Emma like that. Just, not recently. I don't know what compelled me to do it, but I pulled out my phone and sent Emma a text. Me, "Hey, random question, what's Lucas up to today?" She replied almost instantly. Emma, ugh, he's drowning in work. He's been glued to his laptop all morning. Why? I stared at the message for a long time. Long enough that the barista had to ask me twice if I was ready to order. Why did I even ask? Was I overreacting? Maybe Lucas just stepped out to grab coffee. Maybe I was reading into things because I've watched too many true crime documentaries where the husband is always suspicious. I ordered my drink and made a split-second decision to slip out of the cafe before Lucas saw me. But here's the thing about moments like this: once you see something, you can't unsee it. The image of Lucas leaning in close to that woman was burned into my brain. And worse? The thought that Emma, the girl who trusted me with every secret she's ever had, might have no idea. That's when I knew, this wasn't just a coffee run. This was the beginning of something I couldn't ignore. I was standing in line at the cafe when my phone buzzed. At first, I didn't look at it. My brain was still half asleep, debating whether I needed a muffin to go with my coffee or if that would undo the 10 minutes of cardio I managed this morning. But the buzzing wouldn't stop. So, I pulled out my phone, expecting some random spam text about car warranties. Instead, it was a message from an unknown number. "You should tell your friend Emma that Lucas was here yesterday. He wasn't alone." My eyebrows furrowed. What? Who sent something like that? I glanced around the cafe, almost instinctively, like I was going to spot the anonymous texter hiding behind a latte. The number wasn't saved in my contacts. No profile photo. Just a gray, faceless bubble like every scam text I'd ever gotten. My first thought was, this is some weird prank. Or maybe a scam? But what kind of scam starts with outing someone's husband for being at a coffee shop? I was just about to slide my phone back into my pocket and ignore it when my screen lit up again. Another text. This time, it was a photo. A blurry, poorly lit shot, but still unmistakable. Lucas. Sitting at one of the very tables I could see from where I was standing. His head was tilted toward a woman, her hand resting on the table dangerously close to his. They were leaning in, laughing, just like I'd seen them yesterday. My stomach dropped so fast I swear I heard the thud. The coffee line moved forward, but I didn't. My thoughts were spinning so fast I could barely feel my feet. Maybe it's nothing. That was the first thing I told myself. It had to be nothing. Maybe this was just a business meeting. Maybe this woman was a client. Maybe whoever sent the photo was some nosy bystander who misread the situation. But my gut was screaming something entirely different. Because that photo, it wasn't just casual. Lucas's body language was all wrong. His shoulders were relaxed, leaning toward her, like they were in their own little bubble. It was the kind of posture that says, I'm comfortable here. I want to be here. Next in line, the barista called, snapping me out of my spiral. I fumbled forward, my voice cracking as I ordered the iced coffee I no longer even wanted. My hand was shaking as I handed over my card. The message still burned on my screen. I stared at it while waiting for my drink, my brain spinning like a washing machine on overdrive. Should I tell Emma? How do you even start that conversation? Hey, bestie. So, I just got an anonymous text telling me your perfect husband might be meeting women at cafes like some kind of discounted Netflix drama. Also, how's your day going? Yeah. No. By the time I got my drink, I was sweating under my hoodie like I'd just run a marathon. My eyes flicked toward the corner of the cafe, half expecting Lucas to magically appear again, but the tables were empty. Except for one thing. The table in the photo. The exact table Lucas had been sitting at. There was still a lipstick-stained coffee cup sitting there, waiting to be cleared. I don't know why, but I walked over and stared at it. The lipstick was a shade of deep red, the kind of color Emma would never wear. She's a chapstick girl, through and through. And I hated that I noticed. When I got home, I sat on my couch and stared at my phone like it was holding the answers to the universe. The unknown number hadn't texted me again. Finally, I typed back. Me, who is this? 3 dots popped up almost immediately. Then they disappeared. Then they came back. And finally, Unknown, someone who thought Emma deserved to know. My heart was pounding. Me, who are you? How do you have my number? Unknown, let's just say I know Lucas better than you think. That was when I threw my phone onto the couch like it had just bitten me. Because what the hell does that mean? The rest of the day was torture. I couldn't focus on anything, my work email sat unread, my laundry remained in the dryer like it had applied for permanent residence. All I could think about was Emma. Sweet, trusting Emma. The girl who always says, Lucas is my safe place, with that stupid glowing smile that makes me believe, for a second, that love is real and not just a marketing ploy for Valentine's Day. What if that smile was about to break? I've kept secrets from her before, dumb things, like the time I accidentally let her dog eat half a slice of pizza and swore I didn't know why he smelled like pepperoni. But this? This was different. This wasn't just a secret. This was a potential bomb waiting to explode. By evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. Not from Emma, God, no. Not yet. I needed to know what Lucas was doing. Which is how I found myself sitting in my car outside the cafe, like a creep, the very next day. Don't judge me. I told myself I'd just happen to be there, casually sipping a latte in the corner, maybe with my laptop open, looking like someone who definitely wasn't there to stalk her best friend's husband. But my stomach was in knots. My heart was pounding like I'd just committed a crime. At 2:15 p.m., Lucas walked in. And he wasn't alone. 2 days later, Emma invited me over for dinner with Lucas. Nothing fancy, she'd texted earlier that morning. Just pasta night. You're practically family, come over. Practically family. Those two words rattled around my head like loose change all day. Family doesn't spy on family. Family doesn't sit in cars outside cafes, taking mental notes like some half-baked detective. But I couldn't stop thinking about the texts. About the lipstick-stained coffee cup. About Lucas and his mystery meeting that Emma apparently knew nothing about. By the time I pulled into their perfectly landscaped driveway that night, I'd practiced my everything's fine face in the car mirror at least 6 times. Their house looked warm and glowing, like something out of a holiday ad. Through the window, I could see Emma stirring a pot on the stove while Lucas uncorked a bottle of wine. They looked like a couple in a kitchenware commercial, like perfection was just baked into their DNA. Emma greeted me at the door with a hug that smelled like her vanilla-scented shampoo. You're just in time. Lucas is making his famous garlic butter pasta. Lucas waved from the kitchen. Hope you're hungry. I made extra. I forced a smile. Wouldn't miss it. But every time he looked at me, every time he flashed that easy, perfect smile, I felt my jaw tighten. I wanted to smash the wine glass I was holding, just to see if he'd flinch. I hated that I was starting to look at him differently. Like I'd seen behind the curtain and couldn't unsee it. Every little gesture suddenly felt loaded. The way he kissed Emma's cheek while passing her the salad bowl, was that real affection, or just muscle memory? We were halfway through dinner when Lucas got up to grab more wine. He left his phone on the kitchen counter, face up. Normally, I wouldn't even notice. But then it buzzed. A text. From someone saved in his contacts as, Babe Red Heart. I felt my heart slam against my ribs. My brain immediately started screaming at me, don't look, don't look, don't look. But curiosity is cruel. It's the devil on your shoulder whispering, just one glance. Just one little swipe. It's not snooping, it's protecting Emma. Before I even realized what I was doing, I was standing up. Need more water, I mumbled, barely loud enough for Emma to hear. She nodded, mid-story, completely oblivious. My hand trembled as I reached for his phone. One swipe, and the screen lit up. The message stared back at me like a punch to the gut. Can't wait to see you again. She'll never know winking face dot. My stomach twisted so hard I thought I might throw up right there on the marble counter. She'll never know. Who even says that? It sounded like something out of a bad soap opera. But there it was, plain as day, glowing on Lucas's screen while Emma, my best friend, my ride or die, was sitting 3 feet away, blissfully unaware. "Everything okay?" Emma's voice floated from the dining table. I spun around, my face probably pale as a ghost. "Yeah. Totally fine. Just, bathroom real quick." I ducked down the hallway and locked the bathroom door behind me. My hands were shaking so hard I had to grip the edge of the sink just to steady myself. My heart was pounding so loudly it drowned out everything else. What now? What the hell now? I stared at my reflection in the mirror, my mind going 100 miles per hour. Do I tell Emma? Do I blow up her perfect little bubble of happiness with one ugly truth? I pictured her face. The way she'd smile when Lucas walked into a room. The way she still talked about their wedding like it happened yesterday. If I told her, I'd be detonating everything she believed about her life. But if I didn't tell her? Then I'd be the liar. The coward who saw the cracks and pretended they weren't there. I pulled out my phone and scrolled back to the anonymous texts, to that awful photo of Lucas and the mystery woman. I almost wanted to text the number again, to say, "You were right. He's hiding something. What do I do?" But I didn't. Because some part of me knew that whatever was happening, Emma deserved to hear it from me, not from some stranger. The worst part wasn't even the text. It was the way Lucas came back into the room, smiling like nothing was wrong, handing me a fresh glass of wine. "Everything okay?" he asked, his tone casual, almost friendly. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "Just, bathroom break." I couldn't even look him in the eyes. Emma reached across the table to grab my hand. "You good? You seem quiet tonight." I swallowed hard and nodded. "Just tired." Lie. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the text from Babe Redheart playing on repeat in my head like a broken record. "She'll never know winking face. Oh, but she will." I wish I could say I handled it with grace. I wish I could tell you I calmly planned my next move, thought things through like a rational adult, maybe even hired a private investigator to confirm what I already knew. But no. The next morning, I woke up with that text still burning in my brain like a neon sign. "Can't wait to see you again. She'll never know winking face. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand seeing Emma's happy, trusting face in my mind, knowing Lucas was feeding her lies for breakfast. So, I did the only thing I thought a good best friend should do. I blew it all up. I sat on my couch, fingers trembling, and typed out the longest message of my life. It wasn't just the screenshots of Babe Redheart and the blurry cafe photo. It wasn't just a summary of the anonymous texts. It was everything, how I'd seen Lucas at the cafe, how I'd brushed it off at first, and how the bathroom incident confirmed what my gut already knew. I ended it with, "Emma, I love you too much to stay silent. You're my sister in everything but blood, and you deserve the truth, even if it hurts." I hovered over send for what felt like hours, my thumb sweating on the screen. Then I tapped it. The message whooshed into the void, and for a brief, fleeting moment, I felt relieved. Like I'd done the right thing. That relief lasted exactly 5 minutes. Because then my phone rang. "Emma." I answered with a soft, "Hey," ready for tears, maybe even some gratitude that I'd ripped off the band-aid. But what I got was screaming. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I blinked, holding the phone away from my ear for a second. "Emma, How dare you? Lucas told me everything. He told me you were trying to come on to him, and now you're making up this crap because you're jealous?" The words hit me like bricks. I couldn't even form a sentence at first. "Wait. What?" "Emma, no. That's not. Don't you dare try to twist this." Lucas confessed. He told me you've been acting weird around him for months, that you've been texting him at all hours, trying to get his attention. And now this? Screenshots and photos? Are you kidding me? I swear, my heart actually stopped beating for a second. Lucas. That smug, two-faced bastard. He'd gotten ahead of me. Emma, listen to me. Please. That's not what happened. I would never. Save it. You know what? I don't even want to hear it. I don't know what's going on with you, but this is sick. You're supposed to be my friend. Emma, I am your friend. That's why I lose my number, she snapped, her voice shaking now, not with anger, but with hurt. And just like that, the line went dead. I sat there, phone in hand, staring at the black screen like it might suddenly explain what just happened. How did I go from protecting her to being the villain in my own story? Lucas. That's how. The man was a master manipulator. He'd flipped the entire narrative in less than 24 hours. He wasn't just cheating, he was winning. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drive over to their house, bang on the door, and force Emma to hear me out. But a small, terrified voice in my head said, what if she doesn't believe you? What if she chooses him? And worse, what if she already has? The thing about betrayal is, it's not just the person who betrays you that hurts, it's the way they make you doubt yourself. Was I overreacting? Was I too quick to send those screenshots? Should I have confronted Lucas first? No. No, I know what I saw. I know what I read. And yet, the echo of Emma's voice, raw, furious, accusing, kept looping in my mind. Jealous. That's what she called me. Me, jealous of Lucas? Please. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lucas's smug grin, heard Emma's broken voice, felt the weight of a friendship I'd just watched crumble. I drafted text after text, all of them unsent. Emma, please just let me explain. You're being played. I swear I'm not lying. If you can't trust me, who can you trust? But I never hit send. Because deep down, I knew none of it would matter. By morning, I made a decision. If Lucas wanted to paint me as the villain, fine. Let him. But I wasn't done. I wasn't going to sit here and watch him destroy Emma's life while pretending to be her safe place. If she wouldn't believe me now, I'd just have to get proof so undeniable that even Lucas's silver tongue couldn't talk his way out of it. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I didn't hear from Emma for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. That's 21 days of silence from the person who used to text me every time she found a funny meme or needed to vent about her workday. 21 days of me staring at my phone like it was a lifeline, waiting for something, anything, from her. I told myself I wouldn't reach out first. Pride, I guess. Or maybe I just didn't know what to say. Then, out of nowhere, it happened. My phone buzzed at 2:43 p.m. on a Tuesday, while I was half listening to a coworker rant about printer jams. Emma, I'm sorry. You were right. That was it. No explanation. No apology for the screaming, the accusations, the brutal way she'd ripped me out of her life. Just 7 words. I sat there staring at the screen like it was written in a language I didn't understand. Right? I was right? The follow-up text trickled in minutes later. Emma, he got caught. At a hotel. With her. Emma, I left him. It's over. I read them over and over, and I swear, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt tired. When I finally saw Emma again, she looked like a ghost of herself. Dark circles, hollow cheeks, the kind of quiet sadness that clings to someone like a shadow. We hugged, but it wasn't the same. There was a stiffness, a hesitation, as if the 3 weeks of silence had carved a canyon between us that no amount of I'm sorry could fill. We sat on her couch, drinking tea, and she told me everything. How Lucas swore he was just confused, how he begged for another chance, how she found his hotel receipts and couldn't unsee the betrayal staring back at her. I didn't say, I told you so. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But what would be the point? Here's the thing nobody tells you about being the one to tell the truth. You don't get to be the hero. Some of our mutual friends took his side. They said my evidence was too suspicious, like I'd photoshopped the screenshots and staged the cafe picture just to ruin their marriage. I became the villain of the story. The jealous friend. The drama starter. Never mind the fact that Lucas was the one sneaking around with his babe red heart. Never mind that I lost sleep trying to figure out the right way to protect Emma. Apparently, it was all my fault. Now I sit here wondering if telling the truth was worth it. Because, yes, Emma left him. But at what cost? Our friendship is still different. We talk, but there's this heaviness now. Awkward silences where laughter used to be. I catch her looking at me sometimes, like she's still replaying that screaming phone call in her head, still wondering if she should have believed me sooner. And sometimes, late at night, I wish I'd never opened that text in the first place. Because once you see the cracks in someone's perfect life, you can't unsee them. I thought the truth would set everything right. I thought Emma would be grateful, that she'd hug me and say, "Thank you for saving me from him." But life doesn't work like that. The truth doesn't come with parades or thank yous. Sometimes it just leaves wreckage. And I can't help but wonder, if I'd just stayed quiet, would things have been easier? Would Emma still be happy in her perfect little bubble? Would she still look at me like her best friend instead of the person who dropped a grenade into her marriage? I don't know. All I know is that I did the right thing. I think. I hope. Am I the asshole for ruining my sister's wedding with a mic drop confession? If you want to understand my sister Claire, imagine the human embodiment of a Pinterest board come to life. Not one of those chaotic boards with 12 ideas for leftover lasagna, but a board that looks like Martha Stewart and Beyoncé had a baby. Claire has always been the golden child, effortlessly adored, universally praised, and practically followed by an invisible choir of angels singing, "Isn't she lovely?" Growing up, it wasn't unusual to hear things like, "Claire got straight A's again," or "Claire baked cookies for the entire neighborhood." Meanwhile, Emma, once got detention for accidentally hitting the principal with a rogue dodgeball. Long story. I maintain that he walked into it. But Claire? She could spill hot coffee on a stranger and somehow walk away with their heartfelt apology. I swear, she could run over someone's foot with her car, and they'd send her flowers for the inconvenience. That's just who she is, untouchable, unblemished, and, let's be real, a little infuriating. So, when Claire announced her engagement, it was treated as though a minor royal had declared her intention to marry. My mom cried actual tears of joy, and she's not a crier. My dad bought champagne that cost more than my monthly rent. And Claire? Well, Claire launched into wedding planning like she was producing the next royal wedding. I'd like to say the planning process was fun, but that would be a bald-faced lie. It wasn't let's try on cute dresses fun. No, this was a 2-year marathon of color swatches, font debates, does this menu scream elegant yet approachable, Emma, and emotional hostage negotiations over floral arrangements. By the time Claire asked me to be her maid of honor, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. I mean, maid of honor sounds glamorous, right? Like I'd get to wear a stunning dress, maybe give a heartfelt speech, and bask in some champagne-induced glory. Wrong. So wrong. In our family, maid of honor is basically code for free wedding intern. I wasn't just expected to help. I was expected to live, breathe, and possibly die for this wedding. Claire managed me the way CEOs manage billion-dollar companies, with precision, no mercy, and the occasional passive-aggressive smile. Emma, the napkins are ivory, not cream. Do you even see the difference? Emma, I timed your walking speed during rehearsal, and it's too slow. 2 seconds between steps, not 3. I counted, Emma. I counted. I'm not joking. She counted my steps. I half expected her to issue me a Fitbit just to track my pace down the aisle. By the time the wedding week rolled around, I was running on fumes and sarcasm. Claire's to-do list had taken over my life. There was a spreadsheet, for my responsibilities alone. You think I'm exaggerating? Let me give you a sample of what my week looked like. Monday, pick up groomsmen suits. Check for loose threads. Apparently, my role now included tailoring quality control. Tuesday, drive 40 minutes to pick up Claire's emergency lip gloss, which, according to her, was the exact shade of a sunset on the Amalfi Coast. Whatever that means. Wednesday, host bridal brunch, even though I can't poach an egg to save my life. Thursday, rehearsal dinner, during which Claire criticized my toast for not being cinematic enough. Friday, deliver welcome bags to guests. Do you know how many bags I delivered? 48 bags of artisanal snacks and monogrammed water bottles. I'm basically a wedding Amazon Prime driver at this point. By Saturday morning, I was mentally done. Like, done. I was running purely on caffeine and petty resentment. I told myself, hey, just one more day of fake smiles, overpriced chicken parmesan, and obligatory small talk with distant relatives who don't remember my name, and I'll be free. Oh, how naive I was. The day of the wedding was like entering a parallel universe where every second mattered. Claire woke me up at 6 a.m. to 6 a.m., with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for lottery. I thought things couldn't get worse. Then Claire had her first moment. You know the kind, that infamous pre-wedding meltdown brides are known for. It started with the flowers. These aren't the right shade of blush, she hissed, pointing at the bouquets. They look like flowers, I offered, which, apparently, was the wrong thing to say because her eyes widened like I'd just suggested wearing Crocs to the altar. Then came the veil. This isn't laying right, Emma. Hold it like this. No, not like that. Honestly, why is this so hard for you? I bit my tongue so hard I swear I tasted blood. Because here's the thing, I love my sister. I do. But at that moment, I wanted to punt her $800 Jimmy Choo shoes across the room. By the time we lined up for the ceremony, I was emotionally fried. I stood there in my dress, which Claire had picked, of course, trying to remember my 2-second walking intervals while silently counting down the minutes until I could go home and binge eat pizza in sweatpants. But as I stepped onto the aisle, something happened. Something that would turn an already chaotic day into a full-blown disaster. It was 2 nights before the wedding, 48 hours until I do, and I was running through Claire's never-ending list of demands like a stressed-out intern. I had just collapsed on my bed after a day spent taste-testing cupcakes I didn't even get to eat. Claire insisted I chew and spit because dress bloat is real, Emma, when my phone buzzed. Jake, best man, call me. Now. That was it. No hello, no how's it going, just call me now. I groaned. Jake, Alex's best man, was usually the kind of guy who thought urgent meant sharing memes at 2 a.m. So, for him to send that? Something was up. I called him, expecting some minor catastrophe, like losing the cufflinks or forgetting the rehearsal schedule. Instead, Jake's voice came through the phone, slurred, panicked, and absolutely not ready for the news he was about to drop. Emma. Oh, thank God, you picked up. Listen, I can't, look, something happened. Something bad. Jake, are you drunk? I asked, because the background noise sounded like a frat party in full swing. Maybe, he admitted. But listen. This is life or death stuff, Emma. Well, not life or death, but like, wedding or disaster. Get to the point before I hang up, I said, sitting up in bed. There was a long pause, and then he blurted it out. Alex kissed one of the bridesmaids during the bachelor party. I froze. You're joking, I said flatly. I'm not joking. I wish I was. Oh my God, Emma, I wish I was. Jake groaned, the sound of guilt and tequila mixing into one ugly cocktail. He said it was just, a stupid moment. Pre-wedding nerves or something. Pre-wedding nerves? I repeated, my voice rising. Since when do nerves translate to ton Olympics with your fiancé's friend? Jake winced audibly. I told him it was messed up. But he swore it didn't mean anything. He's not in love with her, Emma, it was just a drunken mistake? I snapped. Jake, that's not a mistake. Accidentally liking an ex's Instagram post from 2015 is a mistake. This is cheating. Jake groaned again. You can't tell Claire, okay? You can't. It would ruin everything. She'd kill him, and then me, and then probably you just for being involved. The call ended, but my brain did not. I lay there staring at the ceiling, Jake's words swirling like a toxic storm cloud. Tell Claire? Don't tell Claire? Either way, I was walking into a fire. If I told her, I'd be the villain who blew up her perfect wedding. I'd be the maid of honor turned messenger of doom, the sister who dropped a nuclear bomb 2 days before she walked down the aisle. I could already hear my mom, Emma, why can't you just let your sister be? But my chest felt like it was caving in. I couldn't keep this secret. I looked at my sister, my beautiful, bossy, slightly terrifying sister, and for a moment, I saw past the bridezilla exterior. She was genuinely happy. Radiant. And I was about to crush that. Claire, I said, my voice shaking. She opened one eye, cucumber slice falling to the floor. What? Why do you sound like you just ran over a puppy? I have to tell you something, I said. There is no gentle way to tell your sister that her fiancé is a dirtbag. I tried. I really did. I started with, I love you, and I want you to be happy, which immediately made her suspicious. Then I said, something happened at the bachelor party, which made her sit up. And finally, I just blurted it out. Alex kissed one of your bridesmaids. Silence. The kind of silence that feels like a ticking bomb. Claire blinked at me, like I'd just told her the moon was made of cheese. I'm sorry, what? I repeated it. Slowly this time. Her face went through a carousel of emotions, confusion, disbelief, anger, murderous rage. Who? She demanded, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. I hesitated. I really didn't want to start WWII in this hotel suite. But she saw my hesitation and pounced. Who? Was it? Bridget, I said. Because of course it was Bridget. The bridesmaid who always looked like she'd stepped out of a hair commercial. Claire stood up so fast her meditation blanket flew off. That snake. I knew she was too flirty with him. The wedding ceremony was flawless. Of course it was. If Claire had one superpower, it was bending reality until it looked Instagram ready. Every detail was perfection. The flowers were arranged like a Monet painting come to life. The violins played as if an angelic orchestra had descended just for her big day. Even the weather, sunny with a perfect breeze, felt handpicked. As Claire walked down the aisle, I saw our mother crying in the front row, probably because she'd always known Claire was destined for a day like this. And there I was, maid of honor, smiling on the outside while my brain replayed the secret like a broken record. Alex kissed Bridget. Alex kissed Bridget. But Claire didn't know. Not really. We'd had that argument 2 nights ago, but somehow, she'd convinced herself that Alex had just been drunk and stupid. She didn't call off the wedding. She didn't even confront him yet. Claire, ever the perfectionist, had decided to deal with it after. Like her marriage vows could politely wait while she sorted through infidelity. By the time the reception rolled around, I was deep in emotional whiplash. Claire was floating around like a Disney princess, kissing cheeks, laughing, looking effortlessly perfect. Alex? He was working overtime on the charm offensive. I watched him pour wine for Claire's aunts. I saw him hugging the flower girl like he was auditioning for World's Best Uncle. And every time he smiled at Claire, my stomach churned. Then there was Bridget. Oh, Bridget. The bridesmaid who couldn't stop tossing her hair and giving Alex those looks. She avoided eye contact with me entirely, which only made me want to grab the champagne bottle and dramatically point her out like a courtroom lawyer. The moment I'd been dreading finally arrived. The DJ, oblivious to the storm brewing under the surface, grabbed his mic. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for our beautiful maid of honor, Emma, as she gives her speech. Applause. Cheers. I stood up, my heart pounding like it was auditioning for a drumline. I had a speech prepared, a sweet, carefully written ode to sisterhood. It had jokes about Claire stealing my clothes as a kid, sentimental lines about always having her back, and even a quote from a romantic movie. Claire loved that stuff. But as I stood there, holding the mic, I looked at Claire. Then at Alex. Then at Bridget. And something inside me snapped. Some people promise to love and cherish, I began, my voice steady, but forget to mention kissing their fiancé's bridesmaid the night before. Time. Stopped. You could hear the DJ's soul leave his body. The clink of a champagne glass being set down echoed like a gunshot. A kid somewhere dropped a fork. Claire's jaw dropped. It wasn't just a drop, it was a plummet. She looked like I'd just told her Santa Claus was a scam and had been stealing from her piggy bank for years. Alex, oh, Alex. His face went ghostly pale, like he'd just seen his tax returns and realized he owed the IRS his kidneys. He opened his mouth to Emma. What did you just say? Claire's voice was low. Dangerous. I stared her straight in the eye. You heard me. 2 nights ago, at the bachelor party, Alex kissed Bridget. The crowd started buzzing like a beehive of gossip. Phones were already out. I'm 99% sure there's a viral TikTok of this somewhere right now with the caption, "Wedding speech gone nuclear." Alex shot up from his chair. It's not like that. I was drunk. It was. Don't you dare blame alcohol, I snapped. You had a choice, Alex. And you chose her. Bridget looked like she wanted to melt into the floor. I'm so sorry, Claire, I didn't. Shut up, Claire barked. If you've never seen a bride in a $1,000 dress absolutely lose her mind, let me paint you a picture. Claire went full hurricane mode. You kissed her? She screamed at Alex, her voice echoing through the reception hall. On the week of our wedding? In front of our friends? It was a mistake, he protested, holding his hands up like that would somehow stop the emotional sledgehammer coming his way. A mistake? Claire shot back. Oh, sorry, my bad, I forgot infidelity was just a quirky little oopsie. The guests were dead silent, all except for Uncle Ron, who whispered, "This is better than cable." I watched my sister, the girl who always had it together, break down in real time. Tears streaked her perfect makeup. Her bouquet dropped to the floor, petals scattering like casualties of war. Get out, she told Alex. Her voice was shaking, but her eyes? Stone cold. Get out of my wedding. Claire. Now, she screamed. And just like that, Alex, the man who had promised her forever, slinked out of the reception hall while 200 guests stared in stunned silence. What followed after my speech wasn't just chaos. It was the kind of chaos that reality TV producers dream about. If there had been a camera crew in that ballroom, we would have been trending on every social platform within the hour. Claire stood there for a second, stunned, gripping her champagne flute like she might hurl it. Then, like a switch flipped, she reached for the nearest weapon in sight, a pristine, 3-tier slice of wedding cake, and launched it at Alex. It wasn't even a dainty toss. No, she went full pitching machine mode. The cake splattered against Alex's tux with the force of a vengeful pastry goddess. Vanilla frosting dripped down his lapel like war paint. The room collectively gasped. Someone's grandma clutched her pearls. Claire! Alex shouted, looking down at himself like he'd just been attacked by a frosted sniper. What the hell? You cheated on me! Claire screamed. You're lucky that's just cake and not a brick. The guests murmured like we were all stuck in a courtroom drama. Somewhere in the back, Uncle Ron whispered to Aunt Pam, I told you this wedding was gonna be a disaster. didn't I say that? I said that. Alex, like every clueless man who thinks he can talk his way out of betrayal, made the fatal mistake of opening his mouth. It was just one kiss, he said, hands raised as if that would protect him from Claire's wrath. The room went silent again. You could feel the collective mental reaction of every woman present. Did this man really just say that? One kiss? Claire repeated, her voice dripping with venom. Oh, so as long as it's just one, it doesn't count? Should I kiss the bartender right now, Alex? Is that fine? Alex's face went red, like he knew he'd just buried himself 6 feet deeper. That's not what I meant. Oh, I know exactly what you meant, Claire snapped, cutting him off like a pro. Meanwhile, Bridget, our guilty bridesmaid, decided she wanted absolutely no part in this showdown. She bolted from the room so fast I swear she set a new track record. 1 second she was there, the next, she was just a cloud of hairspray and guilt sprinting toward the exit. She's running like she just robbed a bank, muttered one of the groomsmen. And then my mom, bless her terrible timing, decided this was the perfect moment to direct all her fury at me. Emma, she shrieked, standing up like she was about to give a TED Talk titled Why My Daughter is a Problem. Could you not wait 1 day to ruin your sister's happiness? Just 1 day? I blinked at her, stunned. Mom, he cheated on her. Who cares, she wailed. The ceremony was beautiful, the pictures will last forever, and you just had to open your mouth. I stared at her like she had grown a second head. Are you suggesting Claire stay married to a guy who made out with her friend? She could have dealt with it after the honeymoon, my mom shot back. About half of them, mostly my mom's friends, made dramatic exits, whispering things like, I can't watch this train wreck. Though we all knew they'd be gossiping about it for the next decade. The other half? They stayed. Why? Because the bar was open and the drama was free entertainment. I overheard one cousin whisper, I feel like I should Venmo Emma for this performance. And then there was the DJ. Poor guy. He had the 1,000-yard stare of a man whose only job was to play shallow during the first dance, but instead, he was Googling how to legally quit mid-gig behind his booth. He muttered into his mic, okay, who's ready for the cha-cha slide, and then instantly regretted his life choices when the room collectively glared at him. As the dust settled, Claire sat down, still in her wedding gown, frosting on her hand like war paint, and burst into tears. I sat beside her, my maid of honor duties officially transitioning into emotional triage. You did the right thing, I whispered. She nodded, tears smudging her mascara. I know. But I swear to God, Emma, I'm never trusting a man with a bachelor party again. If the explosion at the reception was the dramatic climax, everything after it has been the quiet, echoing collapse. You think once the cake is weaponized and the groom is exiled, the universe grants you emotional credits to cash in for peace. False. The credits bounced. Declined. Insufficient balance. Claire will not speak to me. Not she's distant, not she's chilly. I mean full, strategic silence. The kind of silence that shows up in documentaries with ominous strings underlining it, and from that day on, the sisters did not exchange a single natural, unforced word. Her chosen method of contact now is legalistic text messages that read like they were drafted by an attorney specializing in petty grievances. The latest one, timestamp, 7:14 a.m., because apparently Spite wakes early. Claire, please send a payment schedule for reimbursement. Total owed for ruined event, $42,000. Itemized list forthcoming. Ruined event. Like I strolled in wearing combat boots and punted the Unity candles. I stared at it with the same disbelief reserved for conspiracy maps and pyramid schemes. Vibe erosion? I apparently owe restitution for metaphysics now. My reply, after deleting 7 drafts that contained the words absolutely not in creative permutations. Claire, I am not financially or legally responsible for Alex's kiss. Also, ambient damage is not a billable category outside of maybe ghost removal. No answer. Just the 3 dots, then nothing. the digital equivalent of a scoff. 2 days post-wedding nude, Alex requested a clarifying meeting. Not with Claire, she refused, but with me. I agreed, mostly out of morbid curiosity and a faint sense of due process. We met at a neutral location, a chain coffee shop whose entire decor philosophy said, "We have outlets." He arrived in contrition casual, no tie, sleeves rolled, shame face activated. He opened with, "Thank you for coming," in the tone of a man delivering bad news about a mutual fund. "Clock's ticking," I told him. "Redeem or incriminate." He slid his phone across the table. "You should see everything. Screenshots. Text threads. A narrative constructed from timestamped digital breadcrumbs. Not doctored," I checked metadata. The twist he'd hinted at, Bridget had been, not coerced, not manipulated, initiating. Weeks of flirty texts. "Claire doesn't appreciate how loyal you are. Do you ever think you chose safe instead of real? Bachelor party rule, what happens there, winky face." He never shut it down effectively. His responses were weak refusals, the kind that hoped temptation would get bored. Example. "Alex, we shouldn't talk like this." "Bridget, but we are." "So maybe that means something." "Alex, it just means things are stressful." Translation, he liked the ego feed while clinging to plausible deniability like a floaty in shark water. The critical thread, night of the bachelor party, 1:07 a.m. "Bridget, come outside. Chill air. Need you." "Alex, we should call it." "Bridget, one kiss won't undo a wedding." Then a photo. A blurred balcony shot. Their silhouettes. He admitted, that was the kiss. I pulled away. It was stupid. I didn't tell Claire because I thought it would die right there. "Why show me this?" I asked. "Because I'm not the only villain. I'm not excusing myself, I screwed up. But Bridget isn't an accidental bystander." "I never said she was," I replied. "But you were engaged to my sister. Your bar is higher." He nodded, eyes red. "I know. I didn't want." We parted. I walked out with a folder of digital receipts I hadn't requested and a heavier complication. Truth is rarely a clean gift. Sometimes it just multiplies the emotional paperwork. Bridget resurfaced 72 hours later via a carefully curated accountability post on social media, white background, lowercase vulnerability voice. "I made a boundary mistake with a friend's partner. I was in a bad emotional place. I own my part. Please respect privacy as healing begins." No names, of course, but she'd tagged a mental health awareness charity, a prophylactic shield against criticism. Comments were disabled. Strategic silence is the new damage control. Claire saw it, people forwarded it within seconds. Her reply to me. "You see what you did? Now everyone knows." I wrote back. "Everyone knows because the behavior existed, not because I named it." This time she did respond, a single, elegant K. If punctuation could slam a door, that was a wrought iron gate. The wedding guests formed unofficial factions. Team Ceremony Sanctity, you should have told Claire privately after the reception. The public reveal humiliated her. Team Radical Transparency, a vow is meaningless if corrupted at the altar. You saved her from a symbolic fraud. Team Popcorn, no strong moral stance, just fascinated. Extended relatives split down predictable generational lines. Older ones emphasized preserving events, younger ones emphasized destroying illusions early. One cousin DM'd me. Sometimes timing is the difference between rescue and arson. Still deciding which yours was. Fair. Online? Oh, online was ruthless, omniscient, misinformed, performative, standard. An anonymous guest posted a blurred video of the speech moment. Caption, Maid of Honor drops nuclear truth. Comments ranged. Legend. That's trauma for life. Scripted? Feels scripted. We need the cake angle. People argued moral frameworks using my family as a case study while simultaneously asking for dress details. Detached empathy is a modern hobby. A friend recommended I speak to an actual attorney about the $42,000 invoice. I laughed, then realized Claire might escalate. So I scheduled a consult. The lawyer listened, took notes, resisted smirking at ambient vibe damages. His conclusion: no contract. No reliance damages causally tied to your breach. She'd need to prove you had a legal duty and your act, not Alex's, caused quantifiable loss. Emotional disappointment isn't compensable here. So, vibe erosion won't hold? I asked. Not unless she sues in the court of aesthetics, he replied. Professional reassurance. Still, the existence of the bill sits in my inbox like Claire issued her own discreet message to select guests. Emma acted impulsively. The situation was being addressed privately. Public exposure was unnecessary and compounded the hurt. I request no further discussion. Was being addressed privately is revisionist fiction. There was no confrontation with Alex before vows. But once a narrative sets, facts become stubborn background noise. She also Venmo requested me $2,500 labeled initial installment. I declined with a polite note, not accepting liability. Hope you find healing pathways that don't monetize me. Venmo does not have a field for moral arguments. Pity. Bridget finally sent a text, long, elliptical, self-aware adjacent. I owe you acknowledgement. I crossed boundaries. I was in a validation spiral. This doesn't define me. I hope in time we all reclaim gentleness. Notably absent, I'm sorry to Claire. Interestingly present, this doesn't define me. People are faster at absolving themselves than attending to the person they injured. I didn't respond. Silence, in this case, is not passive aggression, it's boundary economy. Not every act merits my editorial reply. Alex moved out of their shared upscale condo, lease in Claire's name. He sent me a brief update. He'd enrolled in some relationship integrity workshop, 5-week digital course with reflective worksheets, modern penance. I wished him accountability without offering redemption language he hadn't earned. He asked if, hypothetically, Claire ever wanted the full context packet, could I relay that it exists? I agreed on condition he never frames Bridget's pursuit as exculpatory for his consent. He said, understood. Small progress, at least we're aligning lexical boundaries. I started reading about moral injury versus social betrayal because apparently I cope by academically categorizing pain. Moral injury arises when a trusted framework collapses. Claire's was the sanctity of her curated moment. I inflicted a controlled demolition. The question, was the structure already condemned? Philosophers, and comment sections masquerading as them, debate epistemic justice, the right to timely truth. Delay can be a form of theft, stealing informed consent. Entering a marriage while ignorant of relevant infidelity data? That's compromised consent. My action returned data to its rightful owner before contract formation. That's my defense brief, anyway. Counterpoint. Public revelation transformed a private moral crisis into social humiliation, adding unnecessary collateral damage. Punishment layered onto prevention. Did the method overshoot the mission? The paradox, impact versus intent. My intent, protect. Impact, protect and scar. Yesterday, Claire unexpectedly appeared at my apartment. No text. Just a knock. She looked composed, hair in a severe bun, wearing neutral tones like armor. I'm not staying, she said, stepping inside anyway. I came to say 3 things. I gestured to the sofa. She remained standing. 1. I am still furious. 2. I acknowledge Alex did, in fact, betray trust first. 3. You removed my agency over when and how to act. That feels like a second betrayal. I listened. Do you believe you would have acted? I asked. I don't know. Maybe not immediately. Maybe I wanted one untainted day. Her voice cracked, infinitesimal fracture. You took the option of delusion from me. I'm grieving that too. I can accept that, I said. I won't apologize for ensuring you didn't unknowingly vow. But I am sorry for the experience, the delivery vehicle. I misjudged the weight of public theft of illusion. She exhaled. A long, tired ribbon of air. I'm not forgiving you yet. Understood. Also, she added, retrieving a white envelope, I rescind the $42,000 demand. My therapist says it's misdirected externalization. Enjoy the phrase. She placed the envelope, empty, symbolic, on my table. Thank you, I said. She turned to leave, paused. If we rebuild, it will be slower than you want. I can wait, I answered. Better authentic distance than performative closeness. She gave one curt nod. Exit. I stood staring at the envelope for several minutes, a paper monument to a thaw not yet warm but no longer permafrost. I assessed lingering tensions. Regret, not for content, but for delivery architecture. Relief, significant. Counterfactual futures, her discovering later, still feel heavier. Loss, our easy shorthand. Texts about trivial means. That dimension is presently amputated. Hope, functional reconciliation anchored in mutual acknowledgement of complexity. Right now, Claire is living at a friend's loft, doing reset routines. Alex has ceased contact attempts, good. Bridget transferred out of mutual social spheres, digital block cascade. The viral clip's novelty decayed, algorithm moved on to a groom falling into a koi pond somewhere. I'm reorganizing my closet at 2 a.m. because apparently control over hangers is the proxy arena for emotional untidiness. I drafted, unsent, a letter to Claire. You deserved a wedding aligned with authentic reality. I intervened to prevent structural fiction, but I also colonized your timeline. I accept that duality. When you're ready, we can co-author what sisterhood looks like post-cataclysm rather than reenacting pretense. I'm here, quietly, not performatively. Maybe someday I'll give it to her. Maybe action will supersede prose. So this is where I am, no longer billed for ambient vibe damages, but not absolved of methodological fallout. I prevented my sister from formalizing vows under false pretenses. I also detonated her curated moment in front of 200 witnesses. Both truths fit. They jostle for narrative dominance depending on the angle of light. Some friends applaud. Some friends wince. Family fractalize. Internet memifies. I sit here, spine alternately straight with conviction and bent with unease. Was I the antagonist who hijacked a ceremony for moral theater? Or the reluctant instrument that refused to let a walking red flag in a tuxedo convert deception into legally binding sentiment? That's the unresolved ledger. The verdict, apparently, crowdsources itself. So, AITA? Or was the cost of one imploded wedding still cheaper than years of counterfeit fidelity? Render judgment below. We were best friends. Until I learned her secret. You know that friend who knows every absurd, mortifying thing you've ever done, every secret whispered in the dark, every tear shed at 2 a.m.? For me, that friend was Emily. From the moment we met, she became the keeper of my most vulnerable confessions, and I, harborer of her shattered dreams, became hers. I remember the first time our worlds collided. It was the second week of freshman year, raining so hard the campus looked like a soggy watercolor. I was hunched under an umbrella too small for both me and the backpack stuffed with textbooks I barely understood. She barreled around the corner, drenched but defiant, sliding into the seat beside me in the lecture hall. Without a word, she claimed the desk, dripped onto my notes, and flashed a grin that said, "I don't care." I, on the other hand, was the quiet type, the one who answered questions with sarcasm, who hid behind headphones in the cafeteria, who scribbled in notebooks instead of speaking up. Yet her noise didn't annoy me, it intrigued me. She had the fearless confidence I lacked. I had the steady calm she lacked. Somehow, in a universe that kept reminding us how different we were, we clicked. 2 weeks later, on a stretch of sidewalk under the flicker of a street lamp, we made our pact. She dug her hands in her pockets, tilted her chin like a queen preparing for war, and said, "No matter what happens, failures, heartbreaks, yes, even the time I plaster your dorm door with photos of that embarrassing bar jump video, you've got my back. Deal?" I laughed at the absurdity of it, at the gravity she attached to what was, in reality, college juvenile shenanigans. But then I said, "Deal." For years, that simple promise carried us through every milestone and meltdown. When I bombed my first biology exam and hid in the library until she staged a rescue with coffee and chocolate chip cookies. When she'd cradle me in her arms during job rejections, whispering conspiracies about how the hiring manager must have been an alien who couldn't handle my brilliance. When late-night phone calls stretched into sunrise, dissecting every interaction with a boy we both knew was wrong. When she painted my nails neon green before my first date, and I returned the favor by reading 5 self-help books in a week to coach her through her breakup. We were inseparable, an invincible force field against every blow life delivered. She was my sister from another mister, and I believed we were bulletproof. But the thing about pacts, especially the ones you make under the glow of street lamps and over hastily microwaved ramen, is that they can fray at the edges, unraveling in ways you never see coming. It began with a subtle shift. Emily's calls arrived later. Her texts went unanswered when delivered. Our Sunday hikes turned into solitary wanderings where I'd circle the same trail, waiting for her to catch up. I chalked it up to her new internship, a whirlwind of deadlines, client meetings, and after-work drinks that stretched into the small hours. Then came the invitations I never received. The birthday brunch at that trendy cafe, her entire squad was there, except me. The impromptu road trip she and I had planned months ago, yet the group chat was buzzing about logistics, and my name was nowhere to be found. I confronted her with laughter, like I always did when things felt off. "You're ghosting me," I had teased over drinks one Friday night. She offered a half-smile, eyes darting away. "Sorry, I've been crazy busy." Busy. A word that began to taste bitter on my tongue. Our next real conversation happened in the cramped back room of an open mic poetry slam. She was on stage, reciting lines dark and jagged, fragments of heartbreak that felt too raw to be hers. Afterward, we squeezed into a booth. The neon sign above us blinked open, but I felt more closed off than I had in months. "What's going on?" I asked, voice low so only she could hear. She stared at her trembling fingers, tracing unseen patterns on the wooden table. "I can't tell you," she whispered. "Not yet." Her gaze met mine, and for a second, I saw fear there, something I'd never seen in Emily before. She was the brave one. She was the fearless roar in a soprano. I typed back, fingers shaking, "Of course." I waited for her reply, watched the clock tick past midnight. The silence that followed was louder than any words. I should have been angry. I should have raged at her for leaving me in the dark. But all I felt was a strange pull, a need to dive deeper, to rescue whatever frightened her so much that she'd hide behind riddles and redacted secrets. So I rose before dawn, slipped my phone into my pocket, and walked out into the stillness. Somewhere, in the haze of our shared past and uncertain future, Emily was waiting. And I promised myself I wouldn't turn back until I found her truth. As I reached the empty street, I took one last look at the glowing inbox on my phone. No new messages. No roadmap. Just the echo of a friendship on the brink. But I still had that pact. No matter what happens, we've got each other's backs. Even if I had to walk through fire to prove it. Things started shifting about a year ago, like a slow tremor you feel before an earthquake. Emily met Ryan at a rooftop party, bronze skin, easy laugh, the kind of guy who leaned in too close when he talked, tracing her hair behind her ear with a possessive grin. I remember how excited she was, her voice higher, her texts peppered with heart emojis, her eyes sparkling when she described their conversations. At first, I was genuinely happy for her. I thought she'd found someone who matched her energy, someone brave enough to ride her lightning storm. Then the cancellations began. First, it was small, a brunch on Sunday, a movie night midway through the week. "I'm so sorry," she'd say, voice crackling with a sweetness I'd never heard before. "He surprised me with tickets." And I'd smile, okay with it, because new love deserves some selfish space. But those surprises piled up, like one ghostly whisper after another. Texts went unanswered for hours, even days. When she did reply, it felt clipped, distant. "Busy tonight, hope you're good. Can't make it this time, rain check?" She'd always promise a rain check, yet I never saw the blue skies of her free time again. Each time we finally met, something was off. Maybe it was the way she'd drift in through the cafe door, her shoulders hunched, eyes darting to the entrance every few seconds as if expecting someone, him, to pop up. She'd laugh at my jokes, but the laughter had an edge, like a cracked record. She sipped her latte without looking at me, then pushed it away as though its warmth reminded her of guilt. Over time, the tension hardened between us like a scab refusing to heal. One evening, I mentioned a job interview I had coming up. Instead of her usual pep talk, she leaned back in her chair, lips pursed, and murmured, "Good luck, though you know you'll find something eventually." Not quite encouragement. More like prophecy. Then the whispers started. I was at Mark's barbecue, our mutual friend who'd been there since freshman year, when he sidled up to me with an uncomfortable look. "Hey," he said, voice low. "I don't want to cause drama, but I overheard something about you. Emily's been saying some interesting things." He hesitated. "Nothing confirmed, but you might want to check in with her." My stomach flipped. That night I replayed every conversation we'd had in the past 6 months. Had she been throwing shade? Did she blame me for something? Or was she venting secrets I never meant to share? When I confronted her, she laughed it off as though I'd suggested Bigfoot was babysitting her cat. We were on her apartment balcony, overlooking the city's orange glow. I asked, "Emily, is there something you want to tell me?" She shrugged, tucking her hair behind one ear. "People love drama. Ignore them. You know me, I'd never talk behind your back." But when I looked into her eyes, I saw a flicker of fear. Was it guilt? Defiance? I couldn't tell, because she'd switched back to being her sunny self, too quickly, too perfectly. Still, my gut screamed otherwise. So I started paying closer attention, cataloging every odd behavior. One night, I caught Ryan alone at a local dive bar. He looked startled when I approached, as though he'd hoped I'd stay hidden in our shared past. I didn't bite, I just asked how Emily was doing. He stared at me a moment too long. "She's good," he said, then smiled thinly. "She's happy." I could almost hear the unspoken, "but happy with me, not you." When I pressed for more, he shrugged. "She's a bit different these days." Then he excused himself, melting into the crowd like a ghost slipping through a crack in reality. The next day, I decided to stop waiting for Emily to come clean. I dove into conversations with our circle, reaching out to old friends, piecing together fragments. A pattern emerged. Whenever Emily felt threatened, by jobs, by my successes, she'd spiral, lashing out in hushed conversation. She'd made our bond a shield for her own insecurities, turning me into the villain in her private narratives. Armed with this knowledge, I drafted a message to Emily. "I know things have changed. I heard things, hurtful things, and I need to understand why." I hovered over send 4 minutes, heart pounding. I wanted honesty. I wanted confrontation. I wanted to salvage what we had. Finally, I hit send. Her reply came almost immediately. "I'm sorry. I can't talk about this right now." 3 words that felt like a slammed door. I stared at the screen, realizing I was standing at a precipice. To uncover the full truth, I'd have to risk exposing wounds I'd tried to forget. I'd have to be braver than I'd ever been when comforting her, when side by side we'd faced our college anxieties. Now, I was alone facing the shadow she'd cast across our friendship. And yet, despite the uncertainty, I couldn't turn back. Because beneath the distance, beneath the whispers, I still believed in the Emily who once believed in me. I pocketed my phone, drew in a breath, and stepped out into the golden afternoon light. Somewhere beyond these walls, Emily was waiting, guarded, silent, perhaps even afraid. But I was coming for her story. I'd push through every wall she erected until I found the truth, no matter how painful. After all, we had a pact. No matter what happens, we've got each other's backs. And I intended to prove it. The truth tore itself apart under strobing lights and bass so heavy it felt like my ribs were rattling. It was a friend's birthday bash, one of those open invite affairs where everyone you know crams into a loft with mismatched furniture and a DJ spinning remixes of songs you half love. I'd slipped in quietly, hoping to corner Emily, to force whatever confession out of her. But as soon as I crossed the threshold, I saw her, a spotlight in the crowd, hair shimmering under neon, laughter spilling out of her like a weapon. She wasn't alone. Ryan hovered beside her, arms slung possessively around her shoulders, grinning like he'd won some twisted lottery. Surrounding them was a ring of people, mutual classmates, college acquaintances, even a few co-workers, leaning in to hear Emily's every word. And she was speaking. At first I couldn't catch the thread. Music thumped, glasses clinked, conversations braided together. Then I heard it, my name. You remember what happened with her ex during spring break? Emily was saying, voice so light it felt like a punch in the gut. She ended up. A burst of laughter from the circle punctured my ears. I edged closer, and the snippets came faster. He thought he was going to propose, and she. Does she really think anyone believes that? Poor guy walked out crying. Secret after secret spilled across that dusty wooden floor, secrets I'd only ever entrusted to Emily's quiet sympathy. My first heartbreak, the time I'd been so broke I sold my textbooks back early, the panic attack I'd hidden after my internship rejection. Each detail ripped from our vault and paraded in front of half the city. My heartbeat thundered. My face burned. My throat tightened so badly I could barely breathe. I remembered telling Emily every raw thought during sleepless nights, trusting her to be my confidant. Now she was the ringmaster, pushing me through the gauntlet of her punchlines. For a moment, everything slowed. The music dimmed to a distant hum. Ryan's laugh sounded hollow. Even the flicker of the neon sign above the DJ booth stuttered in time with my racing pulse. I remember thinking, no. This isn't real. My legs felt like lead as I wove around the partygoers, every pair of eyes suddenly fixed on me. I heard a collective intake of breath, the thrill of witnessing a live betrayal. Emily caught sight of me the instant I burst through her circle. Her smile froze mid-laugh, half amusement, half shock. Her eyes widened, but she didn't move toward me. Instead, she took a small step back and raised her cup, as though toasting my arrival. Then I didn't wait for an apology, for an explanation, for anything at all. I spun on my heel and slashed through the crowd, ignoring the arms that grazed my shoulders in confusion. I emerged onto the fire escape, the cold night air slapping my face. Pulling my phone from my pocket, I stood there, shaking under the dim glow of a single bulb. The muffled bass of the party seemed to recede, leaving only my own ragged breathing. I didn't cry until I was halfway home. Then the dam broke. Tears stung my eyes, hot and furious, each one a testament to trust shattered. I replayed every moment I'd spent with her, the laughter, the promises, the midnight vows of always and forever. And now I couldn't even recognize the woman who'd once been my sanctuary. The next morning, my phone buzzed with notifications, texts of concern from friends who'd seen me storm out, questions I couldn't answer without unraveling my dignity. Then I saw it, Emily's Instagram story. A blurry selfie of her and Ryan, champagne flutes raised, their lips curved in smug smiles. Below it, her caption in stark white font, "Loyalty is overrated." I stared at the screen, the taunt burning brighter than any sunrise. Loyalty is overrated. The words dug into my chest, gouging out the space where love and friendship once lived. That was the moment something inside me snapped. The pact we'd made under a shaky street lamp, no matter what happens, we've got each other's backs, had turned into a cruel joke. She'd weaponized our secrets, used my vulnerability for sport, and then thrown it back in my face for the world to see. I dropped my phone onto the bed and rushed to the mirror. I pressed my palms against my temples, willing the pounding to stop. For minutes I stood there, breathing in and out, weighing my next move. Could I forgive her? Could I confront her in daylight, peel back the layers of betrayal to find the Emily I once knew? Or was that girl gone forever, replaced by someone who thrived on humiliation? My reflection stared back, eyes red-rimmed, jaw clenched. I saw a choice laid out before me: retreat into the shadow of what was, or step forward into a new truth, however painful. I clenched my fists, feeling the sting of tears still damp on my cheeks. Yes, I'd been humiliated. Yes, I'd been betrayed. But beneath the pain, a spark ignited, the same spark that had driven me through college struggles, job rejections, heartbreaks. If I was going to emerge from this, I would have to claim my power back, face Emily, demand answers, and decide whether our pact meant anything at all. And so I did. I picked up my phone, thumb hovering over the contact marked Emily. My chest still ached, but my voice had steadied. I tapped her name and waited for the call to connect. "Emily," I said when she answered, "we need to talk." My words were simple, but they carried every unspoken question, every hurt, every flicker of hope that our story hadn't ended on that party rooftop. And maybe, just maybe, that call would be the first step toward finding out who she really was, and who I was without her. For weeks, I wrestled with myself. My chest felt like a drumbeat. Every time I thought of confronting Emily, my heart pounded louder. I imagined scenarios: storming into her apartment, voice raw from shouting, collapsing in tears on her living room floor, ripping at every memory I had with her as if tearing pages from my soul. But each time I teetered on the edge, one thought pulled me back: why give her that power? Why let her dictate how I felt, how I reacted? So I built walls instead. I unfollowed her on every platform, blocked her number with surgical precision, and told myself that cutting her out would be the final act of self-preservation. I moved on, or at least that was the story I clung to. I signed up for early morning yoga classes, downloaded productivity apps, even scheduled a solo weekend retreat in the mountains. In the daylight, I believed I was healing. One night, a little past midnight, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar name: Ryan. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over open. My pulse jolted, memories of party lights and whispered rumors flooded back. I considered ignoring it. After all, Emily and I were over. Why get dragged into her orbit again? But something made me tap his name. His message was short and jagged, like glass underfoot. "We need to talk. I found out everything. Can you meet tomorrow?" No pleasantries. No check-ins. Just the raw, urgent plea of someone who'd been blindsided. The next evening, I met Ryan at a quiet corner table in the same cafe where Emily and I used to plot our futures over lattes. He looked hollow, eyes red, shoulders slumped under the weight of betrayal. For a moment, I saw the boy I met last year: warm smile, easy laugh, the type who believed in fairy tale endings. Now he looked like someone who'd had the rug yanked from under his world. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos, screenshots, even receipts, proof of Emily's betrayals. A series of late-night texts with her roommate's boyfriend, professing, "I can't stop thinking about you." Blurry snapshots of clandestine dinners in dimly lit bars with a photographer from her internship. A confirmation email from a hotel booking, Emily's name paired with yet another acquaintance. His voice wavered as he explained that he'd confronted her, only to be gaslit with excuses, stress, confusion. It meant nothing. But he'd found more evidence, an elevator security tape showing more than just innocent smiles, and his world collapsed there on the doormat of her apartment. The fallout was spectacular. In less than 24 hours, Emily's public persona shattered. Ryan posted a thread detailing every discovery, accompanied by screenshots and timestamped evidence. The thread climbed through social feeds, gathering comments like wildfire. Friends took sides. Some defended Emily, others called her out. Mutual acquaintances confessed they'd suspected something but stayed silent. Strangers weighed in, turning a private heartbreak into a social media spectacle. Within hours, Emily's betrayal was trending in our city. News outlets picked it up, interviewing ex-friends and baristas. She went from fearless and loud to defensive and frantic, her Instagram stories replaced by apologies that rang hollow. Her phone number exploded with messages, some sympathetic, many vicious. Throughout it all, I stayed silent. I didn't comment, I didn't like, I didn't share. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated, to post a single line, "I told you so." But another part, wiser, perhaps, realized I had nothing to gain by dragging her through the mud. I'd already cut her out, and I wasn't going to let her humiliation define me. Finding peace. That night, for the first time in months, my eyelids felt heavy with real sleepiness, not the exhaustion born of restless anxiety. I crawled into bed, phone tucked far from reach, and let the darkness cradle me. When I woke the next morning, there was a calm I hadn't known since before Emily's betrayal. No thunderous heartbeats. No spirals of what if. Just the gentle reminder that life could move forward, beyond deceit, beyond hurt. I realized healing isn't about blocking one person, it's about reclaiming your narrative. By stepping out of Emily's shadow, by refusing to wield her secrets as weapons, I discovered an inner strength I didn't know I had. My world wasn't built on her loyalty, it was built on my own resilience. What happens next? I'm still processing everything. There are days I revisit the betrayal, wondering how someone I loved could become a stranger. I've started journaling again, not to replay old wounds, but to record new chapters, solo hikes, new friendships, the occasional blind date that I approach with cautious optimism. I'd blocked Emily permanently, but I find myself reflecting on forgiveness. Maybe one day I'll learn to let go entirely and wish her well. For now, though, I'm content with this loud, messy breakup, because it marks the moment I finally stopped being her confidant and started being my own champion. What would you do in my shoes? Have you ever experienced a betrayal that forced you to rebuild your identity? Let's dive into healing strategies or ways to protect your emotional well-being when friendships implode. That night, for the first time in months, my eyelids felt heavy with real sleepiness, not the exhaustion born of restless anxiety. I crawled into bed, phone tucked far from reach, and let the darkness cradle me. When I woke the next morning, there was a calm I hadn't known since before Emily's betrayal. No thunderous heartbeats. No spirals of what if. Just the gentle reminder that life could move forward, beyond deceit, beyond hurt. I realized healing isn't about blocking one person, it's about reclaiming your narrative. By stepping out of Emily's shadow, by refusing to wield her secrets as weapons, I discovered an inner strength I didn't know I had. My world wasn't built on her loyalty, it was built on my own resilience. What happens next? I'm still processing everything. There are days I revisit the betrayal, wondering how someone I loved could become a stranger. I've started journaling again, not to replay old wounds, but to record new chapters, solo hikes, new friendships, the occasional blind date that I approach with cautious optimism. I blocked Emily permanently, but I find myself reflecting on forgiveness. Maybe one day I'll learn to let go entirely and wish her well. For now, though, I'm content with this loud, messy breakup, because it marks the moment I finally stopped being her confidant and started being my own champion. Do I feel guilty? Sometimes. Late at night, when the city's hum fades into silence, I lie awake wondering if I should have tried harder, called her one more time, demanded an explanation, begged her not to share my secrets with strangers. Memory drifts me back to the fluorescent glow of dorm room study sessions, the warmth of her scarf around my neck on a winter morning, the way our laughter echoed down empty hallways. Those moments still ache, like half-forgotten dreams slipping through my fingers. I miss her. Honestly, yeah. We had good times, road trips with the windows down, sing-alongs in the back seat, whispered midnight conspiracies about our futures. She was the spark to my fuse, the one who coaxed me out of my shell with reckless dares and contagious enthusiasm. In my darker moments, I still reach for the phone to text her, to share a triumph or a minor disaster. But the only response these days is the cold silence of a closed chapter. At the heart of friendship lies trust. We promised each other loyalty long before either of us knew what that word truly meant. We thought it was about sticking around for the victories and the celebrations. What we didn't realize was how heavy that word could be when pushed to its limits. Friends don't humiliate each other. Friends don't weaponize your vulnerabilities. When she shared my deepest fears with a jeering audience, she tore the fabric of our bond beyond repair. I kept replaying her words in my head, hoping they'd lose their sting. Instead, they echoed louder each time I closed my eyes. I'd always believed loyalty was reciprocal, you give it freely, and it comes back to you in equal measure. Her betrayal taught me that some people wear loyalty like a mask, slipping it on when it suits them and discarding it the moment they crave attention or control. In the weeks after the fallout, I questioned everything. How do you measure loyalty? Is it the number of years you've known someone, or the depth of honesty between you? Does it survive even when temptation knocks? I found clarity in unexpected places, morning jogs along quiet streets, pages of a dog-eared journal, conversations with new friends who hadn't known me before the betrayal. Loyalty isn't about how long you've known someone. It's about how they treat you when no one's watching. It shows up in small acts. Respecting your confidence, even when spilling secrets would earn them laughter or applause. Am I the asshole for refusing to raise my sister's gifted demon child? It started with a phone call and 4 cursed words. Can you babysit him? I wish I'd let it go to voicemail. I wish I'd flung my phone out the window and changed my name to something like Todd Chainsaw, moved to the mountains, and raised goats. But hindsight is 20/20ths, and unfortunately, I picked up. Amanda? I said, recognizing my sister's dramatic sigh before I even heard her voice. Hey, she drawled. That's her I'm about to ruin your life but make it sound like self-care tone. You sound suspiciously relaxed, I said, immediately suspicious. Yeah. I'm actually calling from a sound bath ceremony in Sedona. Sedona. Of course. So listen, she said, her voice suddenly urgent in that I'm going to pretend this is a normal request way she does. Can you babysit him? Now, you'd think him would come with context. Or even a name. But no. Because when you are Amanda, the sun rises and sets on the assumption that everyone around you is fully briefed on your chaotic orbit. So I already knew she meant her 9-year-old son, Zane. Zane. My nephew. My projectile of entropy in the shape of a child. Let me be clear. I love my nephew. I do. But Zane is, how do I put this delicately? If Dennis the Menace and Damien from The Omen had a baby, and that baby was raised by feral raccoons and exclusively fed Monster Energy drinks, it would still be less chaotic than Zane. Amanda continued, just 2 weeks. That's all. Me and Steve need this wellness retreat. Things have been a little, energetically misaligned. Steve. Fiancé number 3. He wore toe shoes unironically and once said kombucha had rewritten his DNA. I wouldn't trust Steve to align a chair, let alone a chakra. I don't know, Amanda, I said, already bracing for the guilt trip. He's gifted, she insisted. He sees energies that most adults are too closed off to perceive. He's like a little shaman. What she meant was, he once told his teacher she had the scent of decaying souls, and then tried to exorcise the smartboard with a pencil wand he called the spirit jabber. Gifted. Right. But she caught me at a weak moment. I had nothing urgent going on, unless you count finally watching Better Call Saul without interruptions as urgent. Spoiler, I should have stuck with Saul. Fine, I said. 2 weeks. That's it. Day 1. Zane arrived like a small tornado wearing dinosaur pajamas and carrying a plastic bag labeled Crystal Armory. Inside, quartz, rose quartz, obsidian, something that looked suspiciously like a driveway rock, and a Capri Sun he called Sacred Juice. Before I could even offer him a snack or attempt a civil greeting, he sprinted past me shouting, "I have to summon the water gods before sunset." What followed was 3 hours of chaos that ended with me standing in ankle-deep water in my upstairs bathroom, watching my toilet overflow like Niagara Falls because Zane had tried to create tornadoes for the fish gods using my toilet brush, 2 rubber bands, and a lot of unholy optimism. I called a plumber. $500 later, the bathroom was fixed. When I told Zane he was grounded, he responded like any spiritually in tune, gifted child would, by placing a dead bird under my pillow. Let me say that again, a dead bird under my pillow. I discovered it around midnight, after feeling something cold and feathery touch my cheek in the dark. I screamed loud enough to activate 3 different neighbor dogs and probably trigger an earthquake somewhere in California. When I called Amanda, because, dead bird, she was in a yurt somewhere in New Mexico doing silent breathwork with Steve. "Oh, honey," she said when I told her what happened, "that's a misunderstood offering. He's just honoring your aura." I wanted to honor her aura with a shovel. Day 4. Zane told me he could hear ants talking. I left a voicemail. Then 2 more. Then I tried Steve's number. It went straight to a chakra cleansing hotline. I wish I was joking. I emailed. I DM'd her on Instagram. I even commented under her latest post, which showed her meditating on a cliff with the caption, "When you align with the cosmos, you don't need a clock." What the hell? Week 3. I had to tell my boss I was working remotely. He asked why I could hear tribal drumming in the background. I said it was a documentary. In truth, Zane had fashioned a drum set out of pots, pans, and something that used to be part of my blender. He was summoning what he called the Thunder Guardians. In the living room, my landlord came by unannounced and saw Zane blessing the mailbox with ancestral fire. He asked if I was running a cult. I didn't have the energy to deny it. Week 4. I stopped asking when Amanda would come back. At some point, I think I just broke. I started accepting things I once would have called 911 over. Like the time I found a squirrel in my freezer wearing a crown made of gum wrappers. Or when I woke up to chanting and a chalk-drawn pentagram in my garage. Zane told me he was protecting the home from soul thieves. At this point, I didn't even ask for clarification. Week 6. 6 weeks. 42 days. 1,008 hours of energetically gifted chaos. Amanda finally texted. 1 text. No apology. Staying a bit longer. Steve and I are thinking about opening a spiritual retreat center in Peru. Zane's with you, right? LOL. He's your little shadow warrior now. Kisses. I stared at my phone for a full minute, unsure whether to scream, cry, or simply walk into the woods and never return. Shadow warrior? Kisses? I looked over at Zane, who was attempting to teach the neighbor's parrot how to speak fluent bird Latin. I don't even know what that means. But it involved a sock puppet and a lot of glitter. I sighed. And then, like some kind of parenting Stockholm syndrome, I handed him a juice box. By month 2, my life had officially transitioned from a quirky sitcom to a psychological thriller with supernatural undertones. Gone were the days when I thought the biggest challenge would be convincing a child to eat vegetables. Now, I was navigating uncharted territories of child-led government, spectral diplomacy, and condiments being used in occult rituals. Zane had, at some point between the 4th and 5th week, declared himself head of the house. He made a sash out of duct tape and a pillowcase that said so in permanent marker. He wore it with authority, and sometimes a colander on his head, while conducting nightly meetings in the living room. Attendance at these meetings was mandatory for his cabinet, which consisted of my cat Lionel, a sock puppet named General Toadface, and the vacuum cleaner, whom Zane had appointed as President Hoover. I walked in on one of these summits. Zane was pacing like a dictator in training, shouting about rationing the goldfish crackers and launching psychic surveillance on the neighbors. Lionel looked deeply concerned. President Hoover was unplugged and probably happier that way. When I tried to interject, Zane looked at me and said, "The civilian population must not interfere with matters of the council. You are dismissed, peasant." I dismissed myself. To the fridge. For wine. Now, one might think, well, why not send the kid to school? Oh, sweet, naive viewer. Amanda had unschooled Zane. Not homeschooled. Unschooled. I had assumed this was code for I got bored being a parent. But apparently, it's a real educational philosophy that involves letting the child learn naturally through their environment. Sounds great if your child is Marie Curie. Less great if your child is summoning thunder spirits and attempting to reprogram your thermostat with crystal runes. Still, I tried. He was humming. The sock puppet was positioned at one of the points. Lionel was, once again, caught in the role of unwilling familiar. And President Hoover was propped up in the corner wearing my old necktie. "What are you doing?" I asked, exhausted. "Channeling the forgotten wisdom of the jam demons," he said. Of course. Silly me. I took a picture and texted Amanda. Her response? A string of laughing emojis, followed by, "He's exploring his inner mythos. Don't suppress him." Glowing star. Suppress him? Lady, I was trying not to exorcise him. At this point, I started keeping a journal. Not for memory's sake. For evidence. It happened on a Tuesday, the kind of Tuesday that starts with spilled cereal and ends with you Googling if children can be legally declared rogue nations. Zane tried to sell my laptop. Not online. That would be too normal. He invited a man from Craigslist, an actual adult stranger, to our front porch. I was in the kitchen when I noticed someone outside, shaking hands with Zane. I opened the door mid-negotiation. "Zane, it's a top model. Very little adult interference. In exchange, I need access to the ancient pirate secrets." The man blinked. "So, not for cash?" "Zane, gold. Cursed treasure. A map. Or rum, if you have it." I shut the door and screamed into a dish towel for 5 full minutes. Afterward, I confiscated all electronics and declared an emergency family meeting. Participants. Myself, hair unwashed, I Twitch active. My mother, spiritual crystal collector and enabler. My father, stoic, mostly silent, selectively deaf. Amanda, joining via Zoom from Bali, naturally. Zane, now demanding to be called Captain Brainflame and wearing an eye patch made of a post-it note. I laid it out. All of it. The toilet flood. The jelly pentagram. The vacuum cabinet. The fact that I now flinch at the sound of glitter bottles shaking. My bank account was hemorrhaging from therapy, plumbers, pest control, don't ask, and now potential Craigslist pirates. Amanda gasped. Not at the damage. No. At my tone. "You're crushing his creative chakra," she said. "His creative chakra?" Mother chimed in. "He's a special soul. Very in touch with unseen realms. You were always so rigid." Rigid? I was one graham cracker short of a full breakdown. I hadn't had a full night of sleep in 41 days. I was bleeding money, my sanity was in shambles, and I was pretty sure President Hoover, the vacuum, had been plotting my demise. Amanda, from her cabana in Bali, had the audacity to say, "Maybe you're not cut out to be part of Zane's journey." Zane nodded solemnly. Some people can't handle the flame. I looked at the Zoom call. I looked at my parents, who were sipping herbal tea like this was an episode of Enlightened Chaos, the home edition. And then I snapped. "Maybe," I said, calmly at first, "I'm not cut out to raise someone else's feral art project." Amanda's jaw dropped. There was a pause, a tense, awkward pause filled with the metaphysical sound of a chakra shattering. She hung up. Just like that. Zoom, disconnected. Captain Brainflame, the council will hear of this. Mom sighed and said something about alignment. Dad shrugged and asked what was for dinner. And me? I poured a glass of wine, stared out the window, and seriously considered applying to that goat farm commune in Vermont. There's a point in every hostage negotiation where even the negotiator starts considering joining the criminals. That point for me came on a Thursday morning, after a full-blown meltdown involving duct tape, maple syrup, and my neighbor's garden gnome. I won't elaborate. You don't want to know. The gnome certainly doesn't. I looked around at the living room, maple footprints on the ceiling, a sock puppet tied to the ceiling fan like a prisoner of war, President Hoover in pieces, and Zane standing triumphantly in a cape made of tin foil, announcing something about the uprising of the sticky ones. That was it. I packed his things. Well, some of them. Others had merged with the spiritual detritus of my home and were no longer recognizable as objects of this realm. I loaded him into the car, activated the GPS, and drove 6 hours straight to the doorstep of Amanda's ex-husband, Zane's biological father. Let me tell you something about that man. He opened the door, took one look at Zane, still wearing the cape, then looked at me. He sighed. Not just any sigh. First, she left 11 voicemails, each more high-pitched than the last, culminating in a screech about how I had traumatized his spirit and compromised his karmic frequency. Then she texted me a 3-paragraph monologue explaining that I now owed her child support for the voluntary assumption of guardianship. I blocked her. She unblocked herself. I don't even know how. That's the level of metaphysical hacker she is. Then came the Facebook post. She went public. It read, "When you entrust your sacred child with someone you thought was family and they reveal themselves to be a toxic male energy vortex, SMH. Some people just aren't ready to elevate." I don't even know what that means. But someone from her yoga group sent me a glitter balm labeled "Cleanse Yourself." It exploded on my doorstep. My cat hasn't stopped sneezing since. I found glitter in my cereal, on my toothbrush, and somehow inside my USB ports. My mother texted to ask if I'd apologized yet. I stared at my phone for a full hour before chucking it into the laundry basket and pouring a drink. At this point, I wasn't sure who needed the exorcism more, me or Zane. It's over. Zane is gone. Not like gone. He's just no longer occupying my home, my budget, or the better part of my waking nightmares. As of 2 weeks ago, he settled into his father's place, a man whose default expression is now a mix of stunned silence and spiritual exhaustion. You know, like he just finished a tour in a war zone where the enemies were glitter, sock puppets, and Reiki combat chants. Me? I have peace. Sweet, sacred peace. I lit a candle yesterday and it didn't end up part of a summoning circle. That candle burned all the way down without being turned into dragon breath incense. My cat, Lionel, has started sleeping in visible locations again. President Hoover remains retired, but I think we both agree the trauma was mutual. But just when I thought the chaos had been exorcised, Amanda detonated the nuclear option. The family split. Now, I've got half the family, including my mother, 2 cousins, and my aunt who once dated a man she swears was part dolphin, calling me a heartless jerk who abandoned a child in his time of need. The other half? They're saying what I've been whispering into throw pillows for months. Amanda has always been a narcissistic train wreck riding a wave of spiritual hashtags and emotional absenteeism. My Uncle Ray literally sent me a card that just said, "You did what we were all too scared to do. Godspeed." Amanda, of course, hasn't taken any of this lying down. Since the Craigslist incident, the glitter bomb, and the whole toxic male vortex Facebook saga, she's doubled down. Her new post? A sepia-tone selfie captioned, "The strong must walk alone when the weak crumble under the weight of a child's divine light." She tagged me. Then she started a GoFundMe titled, "Support my Indigababy's Path to Cosmic Reintegration," with a goal of $20,000 and zero actual explanation. Zane's profile picture is now him holding a stick and wearing face paint. I think he's trying to look like a warlock. Either that or a wizard who lost a bet with a raccoon. But here's the thing. I didn't give up on Zane. Not really. I tried. I gave him everything I had: food, shelter, boundaries, late-night lectures about how my blender is not a tool for alchemy. I lost sleep. I lost money. I lost a perfectly good garden gnome. And I did it for a kid who was never mine, whose actual mother thought parenting was a Pinterest board of essential oils and cryptic metaphors. I did what I thought was best. For my sanity. For my cat. For my bank account. And honestly? For Zane. The kid needs a parent. Not a spiritual concierge. Not a burned-out uncle duct taping salt circles around his coffee table. A real, consistent, adult human being willing to say, "No, you cannot build a shrine out of used socks and toothpaste." So now it comes down to this, Reddit. Am I the asshole for giving up on parenting someone else's kid when their actual parent refused to show up? Let the comment war begin.